Jiang Ruorin was the crown princess chosen by the emperor, yet the crown prince had fallen in love with another woman at first sight. To marry his beloved as his official consort, he defied the imperial decree, knelt outside the palace gate, and was punished with 72 lashes. By the time Jiang Ruorin arrived, Li Chengjin's body was already covered in deep, bloody wounds. Even though he was so severely injured, he still refused to relent. "Father, the woman I love is a Yao. She is the only one I will ever marry as my principal wife, and it will always be her." The eunuch was frantic, trying every possible way to persuade him. "Your Highness, why must you go to such lengths? Miss Jiang has been your childhood sweetheart, and His Majesty has long since arranged your marriage, promising her the position of crown princess. How could he possibly allow you to marry a woman of ordinary background and unknown origins? Moreover, Miss Jiang has a gentle temperament. In the future, if she becomes the principal consort and Miss Lin the secondary consort, she surely will not make things difficult for her. There is no need for you to risk your life over this." Li Chengjin furrowed his brow slightly and spoke word by word. "I have never liked Jiang Ruorin. My engagement to her was forced upon me by my father. In this lifetime, I will only marry the woman I love. Moreover, Jiang Ruorin is the daughter of a military general, hardly fit for the refined halls. She and I were never meant to walk the same path." What a perfect phrase, hardly fit for the refined halls. On the other side of the wall, Jiang Ruorin closed her eyes, her breath trembling slightly. Her Jiang family had served as generals for generations. Her father, mother, and 6 elder brothers had all died in battle for the nation, leaving her as the sole remaining descendant of the Jiang lineage. How could such a loyal and righteous family, who sacrificed everything for the country, be deemed unworthy of high society? It was precisely because her family had been loyal and virtuous for generations that the emperor had promised her to the crown prince. Yet, Li Chengjin simply did not like her. He despised her for spending her days practicing martial arts, wielding swords and spears, and being skilled only in combat, unlike other noble young ladies who were well versed in literature and etiquette. At first, he was merely indifferent to her and had not yet rejected their engagement until he met Lin Qinyao, who claimed to have traveled from the future. It was said that Lin Qinyao could compose poetry, produce salt, make soap, and even create cosmetics sought after by noble ladies in the capital. Everyone was utterly captivated by her talents. Even the usually aloof and noble Li Chengjin fell in love with her at first sight, and from then on, he was completely smitten. Jiang Ruorin could only watch helplessly as the man she admired, who had once seemed so radiant and pure in her heart, gradually drifted toward another. Lost in thought, Lin Qinyao suddenly rushed out, crying as she knelt before Li Chengjin, her heart aching to the extreme. "Chengjin, get up. Don't hold on any longer. I'll step back. I admit defeat. Okay, marry Miss Jiang. I'm willing to be a concubine, as long as you're well." Li Chengjin looked up, gently wiping away the tears on her face. His eyes filled with tenderness. "Yao, don't cry. You said that in your world, being a concubine is an insult to you. So even if I die here today, I would never let you suffer the humiliation of being a side consort. I promised you that in this life, my wife will only be you." Lin Qinyao was moved to tears and wanted to persuade him further, but before she could speak, Li Chengjin kissed her, silencing all her words. "Yao Yao, my mind is made up." With those words, he turned his gaze once more to the executioner beside him. "Continue. If my father insists on this, I would rather die right here." The whip fell upon him again and again, mingling with the raindrops, each strike heavy and brutal. Blood was washed away by the rain, staining the entire ground a vivid crimson. Finally, he could no longer hold on and fell unconscious. Before losing consciousness, he looked toward the main hall and spoke with great difficulty. "Father, my crown princess can only be the one I love. I beg you, Father, please revoke the decree." Jiang Ruorin, who witnessed all of this with her own eyes, swayed slightly. At this moment, she finally accepted the fact that Li Chengjin did not love her, since he had no place for her in his heart. Why should she stand between them and make things difficult for everyone? She, Jiang Ruorin, could love with all her heart, and she could also let go. looking at Li Chengjin, who had collapsed in the rain. Covered in blood, and was hastily taken to the imperial hospital by the guards, Jiang Ruoyin watched for a long time before straightening her attire and stepping into the grand hall, kneeling before the emperor. "Your Majesty, I request that your Majesty annul the engagement with the crown prince." Upon hearing Jiang Ruoyin's request, the emperor's face immediately showed a hint of guilt. The crown prince's decision to break off the engagement with the daughter of a meritorious official for the sake of a woman of unknown origin had caused a major scandal, ultimately tarnishing the royal family's reputation. Hearing her say this, the emperor immediately sighed and comforted her. "Ruoyin, your marriage to the crown prince was personally promised by me. Rest assured, as long as I am here, the crown princess of the Eastern Palace will only be you." Jiang Ruoyin forced a bitter smile. "Your Majesty, the crown prince and I are fated to meet but not to be together. Matters of the heart cannot be forced. Now, the Tuoba tribe repeatedly invades our dynasty's borders, and the people there live in dire straits every day. With no capable generals in the court, we have lost all 12 border cities. Therefore, today, I request to lead the army into battle, to reclaim the seized lands for your Majesty and bring peace back to the border people." Upon hearing this, the emperor immediately became serious. "Ruoyin, the Jiang family now has only you left. I promised Minister Jiang that I would protect you at all costs. Going to war is a perilous endeavor, and I cannot possibly agree to it. Rest assured, I will handle matters with the crown prince. You just focus on preparing for your wedding." Jiang Ruoyin shook her head. "Your Majesty, precisely because I am a descendant of the Jiang family, I have an even greater responsibility to shoulder the duty of upholding the state and saving the people. If my father were alive and knew of the suffering of the people on the frontier, he would surely agree to my request. I beg your Majesty to grant me permission to lead the troops into battle." Hearing her words of such unwavering loyalty to the country, the emperor could not help but recall the mournful scene of the entire Jiang family dying in battle. Their bodies draped in the banners of the Jiang army, with the people lining the streets for miles to bid them farewell. His eyes grew slightly reddened. "What if you never return?" Jiang Ruoyin raised her head and smiled faintly. "Then I shall never return." He struggled in his heart for a long time, then finally slapped his thigh and said, "Good. Truly worthy of being a descendant of the Jiang family. Since that is the case, I grant your request. Before you set out on the campaign, I will grant you one condition, no matter what it is. I will agree to it." Jiang Ruoyin fell silent for a moment, then her voice echoed through the hall, word by word. "Since that is the case, I request your Majesty to agree to Crown Prince Li Chengjin marrying Miss Lin as his wife." The imperial decree was soon issued. Watching the palace attendants hurriedly go to announce the decree, Jiang Ruoyin knew that in just a few days, the news of Li Chengjin's wedding would likely spread throughout the entire capital. Thinking back, her greatest wish had always been to walk openly by his side as his wife, but now, the person standing beside him would never be her again. She returned to her own general's mansion and began making arrangements for what might come after. This time, she might return victorious, or she might never come back at all. She must make all preparations to properly settle the servants of the general's residence. As she had anticipated, upon learning that the emperor had finally agreed to his marriage to Lin Qiniao, Li Chengjin was overjoyed. He immediately hired craftsmen to set off fireworks outside the moat. To celebrate nationwide, he even set up a grand feast for the common people, inviting all citizens to witness his joyous union with Lin Qiniao. News of Li Chengjin's lavish spending spread quickly, and nearly all the citizens of the capital praised the couple for their fearless love that defied imperial authority and broke through worldly conventions. "The crown prince is truly devoted and honorable. I heard that for this grand wedding ceremony, His Highness specifically ordered everything to be conducted according to the traditions of Miss Lin's hometown. She isn't even the crown princess yet. And His Highness has already filled the entire Eastern Palace with the plum blossoms she loves. What an extraordinary honor this is. And there's more. I heard from the palace servants in the Eastern Palace that when Miss Lin got hungry in the middle of the night, His Highness actually went into the kitchen himself to cook noodles for her. Amidst the swirling rumors outside, Jiang Ruorin turned a deaf ear to each and every one, until this day. The Prime Minister's daughter held a spring banquet, specifically inviting the princes and nobles of the capital to attend. To ensure everyone had a good time, she specially prepared a prize, rumored to be an extremely rare jade bracelet. Originally, Jiang Ruorin had no interest in these literary gatherings and poetry banquets, but when the servants brought the drawing of the prize, she immediately decided to attend. That bracelet was the token of love her father had given to her mother years ago. Somehow, it had been lost and never found again. My parents' affection for each other has always been deep, and the loss of the jade bracelet has long been a regret in their hearts. Now that she knows where the bracelet is, she must do everything in her power to retrieve it and place it as an offering before their graves. On the day of the spring banquet, Jiang Ruorin deliberately avoided excessive adornment, blending in discreetly among the daughters of official families. She had no interest in engaging with these noble sons and daughters. Her only goal was to quickly retrieve that jade bracelet and leave. However, just as a tree may wish to remain still while the wind refuses to cease, despite her utmost caution, her presence was still noticed by the crowd. Several people stepped forward, blocking her right in the middle of the road. Well, if it isn't Miss Jiang, just got dumped by the crown prince, and you still have the nerve to show your face outside. How shameless. They covered their faces, laughing, clearly enjoying the spectacle. That's right. I heard the crown prince knelt at the palace gates for 3 whole days and endured 72 lashes, all just to beg the emperor to break off the engagement and marry Miss Lin as his crown princess. This story has already spread through every street and alley in the capital. Who doesn't know that Miss Jiang is now a discarded woman? She was the one who requested the annulment of the engagement. And she was also the one who asked for Li Chengjin to be allowed to marry Lin Qinyao as he wished. She had not mentioned these 2 decrees to anyone, so everyone assumed she was the one who had been abandoned, and their words were filled with contempt for her. After all, why should they show any kindness to someone who had been cast aside by the crown prince? Jiang Ruorin did not respond, nor did she wish to argue with these people. She turned to avoid them but happened to run into Li Chengjin, who was heading there with Lin Qinyao. Upon seeing her, his brows slightly furrowed into a faint crease, his tone indifferent and cold. The emperor has issued an edict to annul our engagement. I presume you are already aware. I do not wish to be too harsh, so from now on, Ayao will be the crown princess, and you will be the concubine. The wedding date has been set. In 7 days, you and Ayao will enter the Eastern Palace together, but I will not touch you. My heart belongs only to Ayao. As long as you remain obedient, the Eastern Palace can ensure your safety for a lifetime. 7 days later, isn't that the day she set out for battle? She was about to refuse, saying that their engagement had been called off. She would not be a concubine, and it was even more impossible for her to marry him again. But as she looked up, he had already left because someone else called him away. Watching his retreating figure, she felt somewhat helpless and could only let out a soft sigh. Lin Qinyao, who was by her side, did not leave. She sized up Jiang Ruorin and then let out a cold, mocking laugh. So you're Jiang Ruorin? No wonder the crown prince doesn't like you. The crown prince has already called off the engagement, yet you deliberately show up in front of him. Are you still unwilling to give up? I advise you to abandon this hope. For my sake, the crown prince would even risk his own life. No matter what, he will never spare you another glance. After speaking, she swept her gaze up and down her once more, her eyes filled with mockery and pity. If you ask me, women like you, confined to the inner chambers, are truly pitiful products of feudal times, always clinging to men, destined never to win their hearts. Can you compose timeless verses? Do you know how to make soap or brine? Can you stand up against tyranny? Only a free and independent woman of the new era, like me, can capture the heart of such a noble man. Listening to her slanderous words, Jiang Ruorin suddenly found it rather laughable. She coldly raised her eyes to look at the person before her. In the past, she had heard many miraculous stories about Lin Qinyao, thinking she was an extraordinary woman, and thus never resented her for Li Chengjin's affection. But now, hearing her speak such words, Jiang Ruorin felt deeply disappointed. She sensed no trace of the freedom and ease of the new era woman that Lin Qinyao claimed to embody. What she had was merely targeting and prejudice against women. Seeing her remain silent, Lin Qinyao intensified her attacks, her words dripping with disdain for them. Jiang Ruorin could no longer bear to listen and couldn't help but speak up in rebuttal. Miss Lin, since you claim to be a woman of the new era, why are your thoughts still so stubborn and filled with prejudice? Men and women each have their own roles to play, and women have never been inferior to men. While men labor outside, women work together to manage the household. In this dynasty, the number of women with outstanding literary talent is no less than that of men. Moreover, there are women who have practiced martial arts since childhood, defending their homes and country, and fighting bloody battles on the battlefield. Since Miss Lin is so capable, may I ask if you are skilled in needlework? Or perhaps in warfare? Lin Qinyao's expression darkened. The nation is prosperous and the people are at peace. What need is there for war? Besides, what does warfare have to do with women? Have you ever seen a woman who dares to march onto the battlefield? Jiang Ruorin sharply cut her off. Prosperous and at peace. The frontier has never been tranquil. It's only a matter of time before war breaks out. With all your extensive knowledge, how could you not know that, for the first time? Lin Qinyao found herself at a loss in a war of words, filled with resentment yet unable to counter. She suddenly glanced down and caught sight of the portrait of the prize in Jiang Ruorin's hand. Instantly, a sharp glint flashed in her eyes. I can't be bothered to argue with you. You want that bracelet, don't you? Just wait and see. The spring banquet competition officially began. In order to win the bracelet, Lin Qinyao immediately recited Li Bai's invitation to wine. The audience was immediately captivated by her literary talent and showered her with praise. However, some raised doubts. The poem is excellent, but some of the things you mentioned are truly unheard of. Do you not see the yellow river's waters descending from the sky? What river is this yellow river? The Prince of Chen once feasted in Pingle. Who is this Prince of Chen? Our nation has never had a prince with such a title. Miss Lin, how do you explain this? Some even asked directly. Miss Lin, did you truly write this poem yourself? Lin Qinyao was questioned until her face turned pale and flushed, yet she had no idea how to explain. Fortunately, she had been in the capital for quite some time and had many supporters. When someone questioned her, her supporters immediately stood up to suppress those doubts, finally managing to cover up the authenticity of the poem. Although Lin Qinyao had made a splash, she didn't achieve the best outcome. Unable to contain her frustration, she proactively brought up Jiang Ruorin. I heard that Miss Jiang is the daughter of a military general. Since you've come to the spring banquet today, I wonder if you have any talents to showcase. Upon hearing this, everyone's gaze instantly turned directly toward Jiang Ruorin. Many people covered their faces and chuckled, for who didn't know that the children of military families only knew how to wield swords and spears? How could they possibly be skilled in such refined arts? It was also unclear why they had come to this spring banquet. Seeing everyone's mockery, Jiang Ruorin stood up without any hint of inferiority or arrogance. In that case, I will play a piece for everyone. With those words, she sat directly before the guqin and began to play the piece her mother had once taught her. Wild geese alighting on the sandy beach. This is an extremely majestic piece of music. As the sound of the qin begins, everyone is instantly drawn into the melody. Though everyone is clearly seated in a garden with murmuring streams, at this moment, it feels as though they have arrived in a vast desert, with yellow sand filling the sky, the sun setting in the west, and blood painting an extremely tragic and heroic scene. Even after the qin music stops, it takes a long time for everyone to come back to their senses. After a moment of silence, the crowd is utterly astonished and immediately erupts into thunderous applause. On a regular day, the usually aloof Li Chengjin now looked at her with a hint of surprise in his eyes. The prize was naturally claimed by Jiang Ruorin. Seeing all the attention being stolen, Lin Qinyao, in a fit of anger, grabbed Li Chengjin's hand. Chengjin, I want that bracelet too. Li Chengjin patiently comforted her. It's just an ordinary jade bracelet. I'll find you a better one in the future. Seeing that her coquettish tactics had no effect, Lin Qinyao grew angrier the more she thought about it. Taking advantage of everyone's inattention, she secretly walked up to Jiang Ruorin and smashed the bracelet she had just received into pieces. Jiang Ruorin watched helplessly as the bracelet shattered into pieces right before her eyes, feeling as though her heart had shattered along with it. She had never seen such an undignified woman before, and a surge of anger instantly flared up in her chest, causing her to completely lose her composure, unable to restrain herself. She raised her hand and slapped the other woman across the face. Although she was furious, she had only used a fraction of her strength. Yet, to her surprise, Lin Qinyao covered her face and collapsed to the ground. At the same time, a powerful magnetic field suddenly flashed around them. Li Chengjin swiftly moved like a gust of wind, pushing the newcomer aside and helping Lin Qinyao to her feet. Jiang Ruorin, who gave you the audacity? How dare you lay a hand on a Yao? Watching him so fiercely protective, her heart couldn't help but tremble slightly with pain. Before she could even open her mouth to explain, Li Chengjin scolded her again. From now on, a Yao will be the crown princess, while you are merely a concubine. How dare you overstep your place and challenge her authority? Now you dare to disregard the distinction between superior and inferior. Does that mean you won't even have me in your eyes in the future? Lin Qinyao, standing nearby, quickly stepped forward to plead on her behalf, yet her words carried no intention of letting her off easily. Enough, Chengjin, I suppose she has already realized her mistake. Why not punish her with finger pressing as a warning? Li Chengjin was slightly taken aback. Although he was angry, he had not intended to impose such a severe punishment. Seeing that he seemed to be softening, Lin Qinyao spoke again, feigning grievance. Chengjin, if we don't establish rules today, I'm afraid she might lay hands on me again in the future. You know, she knows martial arts. And I'm so delicate, I definitely can't beat her. Seeing his beloved so aggrieved, Li Chengjin finally calmed down and said coldly, as a Yao said, punish her with the finger press. Guards, carry out the punishment. Why, I've never harmed her. Jiang Ruorin could hardly believe it. Just as she was about to draw her sword to stop him, Li Chengjin shielded Lin Qinyao behind him and rebuked, Jiang Ruorin, I am the crown prince, and you are a subject's daughter. How dare you defy your superiors? Have you forgotten the loyalty and sacrifice of the entire Jiang family? Looking at the person before her, her eyes reddened, and her heart trembled violently. So he also knew that her entire Jiang family had been loyal and brave, all dying for their country. Yet, for a casual slander from Lin Qinyao, he would humiliate her, the orphan of such a loyal and heroic family. How could it not chill one's heart? The sword in her hand was suddenly snatched away, and at his command, the servants immediately brought up the torture instruments. Jiang Ruorin had practiced martial arts since childhood and had suffered countless injuries, but not a single scar, big or small, had ever made her frown. Yet now, the pain that pierced straight to her heart made her bite her own lips until they bled. It hurt so much. She could only desperately bite her lips to keep herself from crying out in pain. Li Chengjin's brows furrowed into a deep crease, his eyes filled with a touch of pity. Jiang Ruorin, as long as you admit your mistake, I'll have them stop. She stubbornly lifted her head, her gaze resolute and unwavering. I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I admit it? The pity in Li Chengjin's eyes instantly vanished, leaving only anger. He clenched his back teeth, glaring coldly at the person before him, stubborn and unyielding. With those words, he turned to the servant beside him. Have you not eaten? Can't you see she still doesn't realize her mistake? Upon hearing these words, the servant increased the force in their hands even more. Jiang Ruorin felt a heart-wrenching pain surge through her. And then everything went dark as she completely lost consciousness. When she woke up again, she had already returned to the general's mansion, where the steward, Uncle He, was applying medicine to her hands. Seeing her injuries were so severe, his old eyes turned red, and his fingers trembled uncontrollably. Since the entire family died in battle, the person closest to her in the entire Jiang family is now only Uncle He. He has taken care of her since she was a child, serving as her butler in name. But in reality, he is also her family. Seeing her injured, he feels more heartache than anyone else. Miss, your hand is injured like this. How will you go to the battlefield to apply medicine in 7 days? Jiang Ruorin forced a smile to comfort him. It's fine, I've suffered worse injuries than this. So this is nothing, it doesn't hurt. He knew she was trying to comfort him, which made him feel even more heartbroken. At that moment, a servant suddenly came to report from outside the door, saying that the crown prince had arrived. Upon hearing this, the butler immediately put down the medicine bottle, stood up, opened the door, and knelt down with a thud at the entrance. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Concerned for Jiang Ruorin, he dared not raise his head, only pleading incessantly, Your Highness, our young lady is already injured. Please, do not subject her to further punishment. If punishment must be administered, let it fall upon this old servant instead. My skin is thick and rough, it matters not, but our young lady is soon to go to the battlefield. Before he could finish speaking, Jiang Ruorin had already hurriedly stood up to interrupt him. May I ask what brings Your Highness the Crown Prince here? Li Qingjin's brows were deeply furrowed, his face still filled with coldness and arrogance. He took out a bottle of wound medicine from his pocket and threw it into Jiang Ruorin's hands, saying coldly, This is a wound medicine from Miaojiang that can restore your hand to its original state. Also, it was me who punished you. If you want to hate someone, hate me. It has nothing to do with a Yao. From now on, you must follow the rules and stop targeting a Yao. With those words, he left without looking back. Jiang Ruorin stared at the bottle of medicine in her hand for a long moment, then could no longer hold back her laughter. Li Chengjin, oh Li Chengjin. So even your rare visit was for her sake, just because she's afraid I might hold it against her in the future. But you can rest assured, in the future, there will be no connection between you and me, or between her and me. The next day, during the Lantern Festival, Lin Qinyao sent someone to invite her to join herself and Li Chengjin for a stroll. She knew that Lin Qinyao was jealous because Li Chengjin had sent her medicine, and that today's invitation was certainly not made with good intentions. She was about to refuse, but Lin Qinyao seemed to anticipate this and actually sent someone to pressure her with Li Chengjin's jade pendant, which symbolized his status as the crown prince. With no room for refusal, she had no choice but to go. When the three of them met, Li Chengjin, seeing her presence, couldn't help but frown in displeasure. What are you doing here during my date with a Yao? Lin Qinyao hurriedly tried to smooth things over. I was the one who invited her. From now on, she will be a concubine, and we will be like sisters. Chengjin, you can't show favoritism and make outsiders think I'm bullying her. Li Chengjin's brows remained deeply furrowed, but his tone was gentler than ever before. A Yao, in this lifetime, I will only touch you, no matter how many others I marry. They will merely be ornaments. Why should we care about what others say? Upon hearing this, Lin Qinyao glanced triumphantly at Jiang Ruorin, only to see her expression calm. As if she hadn't taken his words to heart at all. Throughout the journey, the two were exceptionally close. Li Chengjin showered Lin Qinyao with endless care and affection, and seeing someone of such high status humble himself for love made countless onlookers envious. Only Jiang Ruorin followed behind, not saying a word the entire time. As the Lantern Festival drew to a close, the group prepared to return to the estate when suddenly a group of assassins rushed out, blocking their path. In order to spend time alone with Lin Qinyao that day, Li Chengjin had not brought any attendants. Outnumbered, he was ultimately at a disadvantage. Seeing an opportunity, one of the assassins raised his sword and lunged toward him. At this very moment, Lin Qinyao, standing nearby, threw herself in front of Li Chengjin without a second thought. Li Chengjin's eyes widened in shock, his voice trembling. Yao! The hidden guards arrived just in time and quickly apprehended the assassins. However, those who came were all death warriors. Before anyone could interrogate them, they took poison and died. Lin Qinyao was injured, and Li Chengjin was frantic with worry. Upon hearing that her external wounds required the herb heartbreak grass as a medicinal catalyst, he immediately disregarded everyone's attempts to stop him and left the city alone. When he returned, he was covered in wounds, yet he only cared about having the imperial physician brew the medicine. He then stayed by Lin Qinyao's side, gently feeding her the medicine. Watching the scene of the two of them nestled together, Jiang Ruorin could only sigh. Realizing that she had truly lost completely, Now, standing here, she felt like an outsider, so she simply turned around and quietly left. She just hadn't expected that in the middle of the night, a group of people would suddenly arrive and forcibly escort her back to the Eastern Palace. She looked at the furious Li Chengjin before her, puzzled, and before she could even ask a question, he pointed his sword at her neck and coldly demanded, "Those assassins were sent by you, weren't they?" His words felt like a bucket of cold water poured over her head, instantly sobering her up. Before she could speak, Li Chengjin continued, "Although you hired only death warriors, one of them was captured alive by us. That person has already confessed. It was you who deliberately arranged for them to assassinate me, planning to block the sword for me afterward, hoping to use the debt of saving my life to coerce me into changing my mind and making you the crown princess, Jiangruorin. How did I not see before that you are so cunning?" She felt nothing but absurdity, unable to defend herself. "I have never met these assassins, nor have I ever had the thoughts you mentioned." Lin Qinyao, standing nearby, sneered with a mocking tone, "Miss Jiang certainly knows how to play the victim. If the plan had succeeded, you could have become the crown princess, and if you hadn't blocked the sword as planned, and I had died, you would have benefited even more. What a clever plan that kills two birds with one stone." Seeing her analyze it this way, Jiangruorin finally realized that everything was a scheme she had orchestrated to frame her. She was willing to go to such lengths, but at this point, she also understood that no matter how she explained herself, it was unnecessary. Just because Li Chengjin liked Lin Qinyao, naturally whatever she said was what it was. Seeing her now in a state of complete resignation, Li Chengjin grew even more furious. "Jiangruorin, I'm telling you for the last time, no matter what you do, the only one I love is a Yao, and the crown princess can only be her. No matter how many schemes you have, I advise you to give up on this idea as soon as possible." Jiangruorin's heart ached sharply as she raised her eyes to meet his gaze. "Then may I ask, Your Highness, how do you plan to punish me today? Will you resort to torture again?" Li Chengjin's face darkened as he raised his hand and smashed the cup on the table to pieces. He did not say it outright, but the next day, he invited all the dignitaries and noble ladies of the capital to a banquet at the Eastern Palace. In front of everyone, he took Lin Qinyao's hand and announced, "Let all here bear witness that from now on, I and a Yao will be devoted to each other for life, and I will never take another wife." Everyone looked at each other, instantly recalling his previous declaration in front of everyone about taking Jiangruorin as his concubine, and couldn't help but ask, "Your Highness, what about Miss Jiang?" He sneered, his words almost gritted out one by one. "She is nothing more than a decoration my father forced upon me. In the future, she will be no different from a vase." Everyone fell silent, only sighing inwardly that Jiangruorin would likely never receive her husband's love in this lifetime. Women in the inner chambers often rely on their husband's favor to live. By saying this, he made it clear to everyone that her remaining days would be filled with hardship. From then on, no one would look up to her, and she would be the subject of gossip for the rest of her life. Jiangruorin finally understood that he was doing this to retaliate for the incident with the assassin. It was a warning, cautioning her not to overstep her boundaries again. At the end of the banquet, the Eastern Palace lit and released 10,000 Kongming lanterns specifically to pray for Lin Qinyao's blessings. As countless Kongming lanterns filled with blessings rose into the sky, Li Chengjin lowered his head, wrapped his arm around Lin Qinyao's waist, and gently kissed her on the lips. She smiled shyly, and the two embraced, deepening the kiss. Jiangruorin's gaze remained calm. Just as she was about to turn and leave, she was stopped by the accompanying guards. "His Highness the Crown Prince has ordered that Miss Jiang must watch until the end before she is allowed to leave." He really went to great lengths to make himself give up, but he didn't know that she had already given up on him long ago, when he knelt on the ground begging the emperor to annul the engagement. That's why she so readily gave him his freedom. She was such a decisive and straightforward woman. How could she be clingy or hesitant in matters of the heart? 5 days before the expedition, the emperor organized a hunting event and invited all the officials to attend. Every year during the hunting event, the emperor would reward the person who hunted the most. Lin Qinyao, who had never witnessed such a scene before, also pestered Li Chengjin to take her along to participate. However, she had never learned how to hunt, nor did she know how to use a bow and arrow or ride a horse, watching everyone dart through the forest. She could only stand by anxiously. At the end of the hunt, Jiang Ruorin personally hunted an extremely rare white fox and presented it to the emperor, which delighted him immensely. He immediately rewarded her with the largest luminous pearl in the world. Lin Qiniao, standing nearby, watched her steal the spotlight with intense envy. In an attempt to please the emperor and draw everyone's attention to herself, she deliberately approached him with a flourish, curtsying as if presenting a treasure. "Your Majesty seems exceptionally joyful during today's hunt. I have prepared a poem in the hopes of bringing a smile to your face." Unexpectedly, the emperor was not impressed and merely frowned coldly. "Today's event is not a poetry gathering. Have you perhaps mistaken the occasion?" Lin Qiniao's face instantly flushed with embarrassment, turning red and pale in patches. It was Li Chengjin who stepped forward to rescue her from the awkward situation. Yao just wanted to make father happy. After saying that, he took Lin Qiniao aside to comfort her. "Father has always valued martial prowess over literary talent, so don't take it to heart. You really liked that luminous pearl, didn't you? I'll go get it back for you." After the hunt ended, he went straight to Jiang Ruorin, took off the jade pendant he had worn for over 20 years from his waist, and handed it to her. "Haven't you always wanted this? Give me the night luminescent pearl. And you can take the jade pendant." This jade pendant was given to him by his mother when she was still alive. Now, to exchange it for the night luminescent pearl that Lin Qiniao likes, he is actually willing to part with it. She curled her lips bitterly, calmly took the night luminescent pearl from her bosom, placed it in his hand, and then turned to leave. In the past, she wanted his jade pendant because she liked him, and she felt that having something uniquely his would bring her joy. Now, she no longer needs it. 4 days before setting out, she left the city and went to the outskirts to pay respects to her deceased relatives. Once they parted this time, it was uncertain when they would return. As she rode back on horseback and just reached the city gate, she saw her maid running toward her in tears. Miss, Uncle, he is dead." Jiang Ruorin, riding on horseback, stiffened her body. Nearly falling from the horse, she steadied herself and asked, "Explain clearly. What exactly happened?" The maid knelt on the ground, weeping uncontrollably. "Today, Uncle, he offended Miss Lin just to buy the Osmanthus cake that you love. Miss Lin then had him torn apart by 5 horses, and his body was thrown directly into the unmarked burial ground. She even forbade us from searching for him. But clearly, the last piece of Osmanthus cake was already bought by Uncle He. Just because he refused to give it to Miss Lin, she flew into a rage. Miss. Uncle, he was clutching that piece of Osmanthus cake even until his last breath." Jiang Ruorin's vision suddenly went dark, as if 1,000 troops and horses were trampling over her head, and her entire body ached as if it were about to split apart. She just casually mentioned wanting to eat Osmanthus cake today, but she never expected it would cost Uncle He his life. The entire Jiang family died in battle, and Uncle He had watched her grow up since she was a child. She had long regarded him as her only family. Dismemberment by 5 horses, such a cruel and inhumane punishment. How could Uncle He, in his old age, possibly endure it? Why, despite her constant forbearance, is Lin Qiniao still unwilling to let go? She was utterly heartbroken. Having completely lost all reason by this point, she forced back the tears in her eyes, raised her sword, and headed straight for Lin Qiniao's residence. Perhaps her grief-stricken and furious appearance was too terrifying. So much so that the servants dared not stop her. She charged into the Eastern Palace with her sword, her eyes conveying only one message. Today, she wanted Lin Qiniao's life. Her eyes were already bloodshot, making her look like a crazed beast, with no more reservations left. Just as she barged into Lin Qiniao's courtyard, that all-too-familiar face suddenly appeared before her. Li Chengjin stood in front of her, clearly determined not to let her harm Lin Qiniao. Ruorin, "I already know about the matter with the steward. He is just a servant, not worth you going this far." She completely broke down, rushing forward to stare at him coldly. "He is not a servant, he is my family. Step aside." Today I must kill Lin Qinyao to avenge him. Li Chengjin stopped her. Jiangruorin, this matter is a Yao's fault, but she didn't do it on purpose. She laughed through her tears. Not on purpose. Tell me how it wasn't on purpose to have him torn apart by 5 horses. How it wasn't on purpose to throw his body into a mass grave. Uncle, he worked hard his whole life. What wrong did he commit to deserve such punishment? Tell me. It seemed to be the first time he had seen Jiangruorin in such agony. His pupils trembled slightly, but he still refused to relent. In any case, I won't let you harm a Yao. Her fury nearly consumed her entirely. Given the circumstances, you still want to protect her. Even a prince who breaks the law is no different from a commoner. Today, I will make sure she pays with her life. If you refuse, I will go before His Majesty and request an imperial decree. Li Chengjin's expression grew increasingly somber. He said nothing more, silently stepping forward until his body pressed against the edge of her sword. Then, meeting her shocked gaze, he allowed the sharp blade to plunge, inch by inch, deep into his own chest. Is this enough? If you insist on her paying with her life, then I will repay it for her. Blood splattered everywhere. Her hand, gripping the sword hilt, stiffened, and her gaze turned pained and desolate. Li Chengjin, do you love her that much? His chest was stained with blood, his consciousness already somewhat hazy. Yet he gritted his teeth and answered without hesitation. Yes. Jiangruorin laughed through her tears, increasing the force in her hands. Good, then you shall repay it for her. Just as she was about to pierce his chest through, a large group of guards suddenly rushed out from behind, knocking her unconscious to the ground. When she woke up, she had already been dragged into the icy water dungeon. The water dungeon was always used to punish the most heinous criminals. The waist-deep water was filled with poisonous insects, rats, and ants, enough to frighten an ordinary person into a faint just by looking at it. And she was locked inside for a full day and night before being pulled out. Li Chengjin, draped in a cloak, stood before her with a pale face. I was unconscious earlier, and the guards, seeing that you had injured me without knowing the details, arrested you. I will have someone properly bury Uncle He. You should also stop talking about repaying a life with a life. Assassinating the crown prince is a capital offense, and this matter ends here. In the future, you and a Yao will be the crown princess and the concubine respectively. You must coexist peacefully and avoid causing further trouble. Coexist peacefully. Don't stir up trouble. She smiled. She looked up at the man she had once most wanted to marry, not telling him the fact that she would never marry him again, and just calmly said, Your Highness, do you know why I liked you? His thin lips trembled slightly, and before he could speak, he heard her say again. Because you are different from everyone else. When I was young, because I was the daughter of a military general, those noble girls bullied me. You stood in front of me, saying that my father and brothers were risking their lives on the battlefield, and I had more right than any of them to stand at the very center of imperial power and wealth, at the Imperial Academy. My handwriting was poor, so you taught me stroke by stroke, never once complaining that I was slow. When I was afraid of thunder, you climbed over the wall to buy me my favorite chestnut cake. My father and brothers were not in the capital, and you were the first person to protect me like that. Perhaps you've long forgotten these things. They may have been insignificant to you, but they made me love you for over a decade. Looking back now, I realize that when you helped me back then, it was probably just a casual gesture. After all, you were the crown prince, and you had to uphold benevolence and virtue. Treating the daughter of a loyal minister that way was simply what was expected. So later, when we became engaged, you started avoiding me and grew cold, and when Lin Qinyao appeared, all that was left for me was your disdain. I misunderstood your intentions and loved the wrong person. She smiled, but her eyes were icy cold. From now on, I will no longer like you. She pointed to her own heart. Not a trace of you remains here. After saying these words, she had no more attachments left. She stood up and stumbled out of the room. Li Chengjin, who remained standing in place, took a long time to come back to his senses. He wanted to chase after her, only to find that she had long since vanished without a trace. He thought about it. In truth, he hadn't disliked her that much before. If Lin Qinyao hadn't appeared as the crown prince, He might have even calmly accepted the fact that she was to become his crown princess. It was Lin Qinyao's appearance that taught him that people are free and independent, and should not accept others' arrangements. They must pursue their own true love, and his true love could never be Jiang Ruorin, the one his father had arranged for him to marry. Therefore, he and she were destined to end up this way. The night before the expedition, Li Chengjin arranged for someone to deliver the wedding dress and jewelry. Accompanying them was Lin Qinyao's personal maid. She looked at the simple wedding dress and jewelry on the tray, her eyes filled with disdain. After all, Miss Jiang is only a concubine, while my lady is the crown princess. Since you and my lady are entering the Eastern Palace on the same day, naturally, the best should be reserved for my lady. The wedding dress and jewelry given to you are already quite generous. This is only because my lady kindly pleaded with His Highness the Crown Prince to send them over. Otherwise, Miss Jiang wouldn't even have a wedding dress and would have to be carried into the Eastern Palace through the side gate in a simple sedan chair. Some people should be grateful for my lady's kindness and not harbor delusions about things they don't deserve. Jiang Ruorin heard her boasting, but instead of flying into a rage as expected, she didn't even glance at her. Seeing no reaction from her, the maid, seething with frustration, could only leave in embarrassment. After the group had left, Jiang Ruorin stood up and threw the wedding dress and jewelry into the nearby fire. She had no use for these things anyway, and keeping them would only be an eyesore. The fire was burning brightly, and just as the last piece of jewelry was about to be consumed, Li Chengjin's voice suddenly came from behind. "What are you burning? Tomorrow was the wedding day." And Jiang Ruorin didn't know why he had appeared here at this moment, but she had no intention of asking. Her expression was indifferent, just some unnecessary things. After saying that, she had no intention of exchanging pleasantries with him and turned to leave. Li Chengjin then stepped forward to stop her, saying coldly, "How much longer are you going to keep this up? The person I love has always been a Yao. Even if she committed a heinous crime, I would still protect her at all costs. Uncle, he is dead, and I know you're grieving, but I've already repaid you with a sword strike. What more do you want?" She smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. "If you like Lin Qinyao, you should stay by her side. What are you doing here with me?" For the first time, he found himself at a loss and replied somewhat irritably, "I came out of genuine concern for you, and also to give you a warning. Starting tomorrow, you will be a part of the Eastern Palace. Do not cause any more trouble." She shook her head. "I will never belong to the Eastern Palace, so I won't stir up trouble, nor will I bully your Lin Qinyao. Now you can rest assured." Right, he didn't quite catch her words about never being part of the Eastern Palace. Only thinking that she had truly softened her stance now, his expression relaxed a bit. "That's very good." After saying this, he turned to leave, but she suddenly called out to stop him. "Li Chengjin, goodbye." Calling the crown prince by his name directly originally violated palace rules, but this time he did not feel angry, inexplicably recalling how she had always addressed him by name since childhood. "Li Chengjin, I am very happy that you taught me to write today. When I enter the palace tomorrow, I will bring you candied haws to eat." "Li Chengjin, this matter is not your fault. Don't be afraid, I will kneel with you." "Li Chengjin, your mother has just become a star in the sky. Don't be sad. I will stay with you from now on." It turned out that they had once shared such a deep bond. However, as they grew older and their engagement was arranged, he gradually grew more distant from her. An inexplicable emotion surged within him, which he forcibly suppressed before turning to look at her. "See you on the wedding day. Tomorrow, I can only hold the wedding ceremony with the crown princess consort. As for the side consort, she will be carried into the Eastern Palace in a bridal sedan chair through the side gate. The wedding night will follow the same arrangement. I will go to a Yao's chamber first and then come to see you in the latter half of the night." After explaining everything, he finally turned and left, hurrying off to prepare for the grand wedding the next day, so he didn't hear Jiang Ruorin's reply to him. "No need, Li Chengjin. Tomorrow is the day I set out for battle, for this grand wedding. You will have only a principal consort, no secondary consort." On the day of the grand wedding, the entire capital was filled with joy. The wedding procession, grand and magnificent, made its way toward the Eastern Palace. with gongs and drums resounding, creating a lively and festive atmosphere. Meanwhile, at the city gate, Jiang Ruorin rode a black horse, leading an army of 100,000 soldiers as they marched out of the city in a grand procession. Soldiers, follow me into battle. Let us reclaim the 12 border cities and defend our homeland. The soldiers' voices thundered with deafening intensity. Swear to follow General Jiang to the death, and protect our homeland. Giddy up, Jiang Ruorin rode astride a sturdy black horse, her posture bold and spirited, majestically leading an army of 100,000 soldiers. They advanced in a grand and mighty formation toward the frontier. The howling wind swept up clouds of yellow sand, yet it could not in the slightest obscure the unwavering determination and resolve that flickered in her eyes. During the march, Jiang Ruorin spared no effort, meticulously enforcing military discipline and continuously boosting the soldiers' morale. Upon arriving at the frontier fortress, Jiang Ruorin quickly immersed herself in the tense and busy military deployments. Inside the command tent, holding a military map, her eyes bright and focused, she addressed the assembled generals with calm authority. Everyone, the enemy forces may appear strong, but they have traveled a long distance to reach this point and are undoubtedly exhausted. We must seize this opportunity to catch them off guard. A general clasped his hands respectfully and asked, "Commander, in your opinion, where would be the most suitable place for us to launch our attack?" Jiang Ruorin's gaze was as firm as a torch, and her finger pointed precisely to a key strategic location on the map. This place is where the enemy stores their provisions, and its defenses are relatively weaker compared to other areas. We will first send an elite force to feign a frontal assault, drawing the enemy's main forces. Then, I will personally lead the main army to launch a surprise attack here, cutting off the enemy's supply of provisions. In this way, the enemy's internal situation will inevitably fall into chaos. The generals all responded in unison, and for a moment, morale soared within the tent, with everyone feeling impassioned and spirited. In her first encounter with the enemy, Jiang Ruorin led the charge, spear in hand. Dashing into the enemy ranks like a black bolt of lightning, she shouted loudly, "Soldiers, follow me and fight bravely to defend our homeland." Seeing their commander so fearless and heroic, the soldiers' morale soared to its peak. Each fought like a tiger descending the mountain, and the first battle ended in a resounding victory. At night, when all was silent, Jiang Ruorin walked out of her tent alone, quietly admiring the night scenery of the frontier. Just then, she faintly heard a barely audible groan. She warily glanced around, noticing a slight movement in the grass ahead. Who's there?" Jiang Ruorin called out loudly, but only the silence of the night answered her. She cautiously took a few more steps forward and suddenly felt something soft under her foot. Jiang Ruorin instinctively gave it a gentle press. A muffled groan of pain sounded. Jiang Ruorin quickly focused her gaze and saw a man lying on the ground. He was dressed in dark clothing, and his already pale cheeks appeared particularly eerie and terrifying under the bright moonlight. Jiang Ruorin slowly crouched down, carefully examining the man's face. His features were exceptionally handsome, as if carved by a fine blade, making it impossible not to take a second look. "Miss, please, save me." The man's breath was faint, and before he could finish speaking, his vision went dark, and he fainted. Only then did Jiang Ruorin notice that the man's inner garment was already soaked with blood, though it was concealed by his dark outer robe, making it difficult to see. After a moment of hesitation, Jiang Ruorin decided to take the man back to her own tent. Jiang Ruorin had been in the military for many years and often assisted the army doctors in her daily duties. Picking up some basic medical skills along the way, she quickly stopped the man's bleeding, then took out a precious ointment bestowed by the emperor and carefully applied it to his wound. Just then, the army doctor hurried over upon hearing the news. "General, you've always treasured this ointment and rarely used it yourself. How could you? His injuries are too severe. If we don't use this ointment, once the wound becomes infected, I'm afraid his life will be in danger." The military doctor was somewhat puzzled. Jiang Ruorin had always cared deeply for the soldiers under her command, but this man was merely a complete stranger. After examining the man's pulse, His expression grew increasingly grave. This person has been poisoned by ant grass, and this poison is extremely difficult to cure. Jiang Ruorin furrowed her brows and asked urgently. Is there any way to detoxify? Please speak freely. In the rainforest mountains of the borderlands, there grows a plant called the three-spring grass. Every March, the three-spring grass sprouts. Crushing the sprouts into medicine is the only way to detoxify. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin immediately felt a wave of doubt in her heart. The rainforest mountains were a place where enemy troops lay in ambush. Venturing there recklessly would indeed be fraught with danger. But how could she just stand by and watch this man lose his life? Cough, cough, cough. Just then, the man on the bed suddenly stirred. Jiang Ruorin quickly asked softly, "How are you feeling now? Is there anywhere you feel uncomfortable?" The man slightly shook his head and said in a faint yet pleasant voice, "I am Xianxia. Thank you, miss, for saving my life." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin unconsciously averted her gaze, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. "Since you're awake now, you should put your clothes back on yourself." Because she had been applying medicine to the man earlier, his clothes were half undone. At this moment, if the military doctor were not still in the tent, the atmosphere would truly be somewhat ambiguous. Jiang Ruorin stepped out of the tent. The night at the border was bitterly cold, with a wind as sharp as a knife, cutting painfully into one's face. She instinctively tightened her cloak, but the chill still seeped in, thread by thread. At this moment, the only thing in her mind was Xianxia's pale yet still handsome face. The military doctor's words lingered in her ear like a ghostly whisper. The three-spring grass can cure General Shen's poison, but the enemy forces are heavily concentrated in the Yulin mountain area. Going there would be a near-certain death. Yet, the thought of Xianxia dying without a cure felt like an invisible hand gripping Jiang Ruorin's heart, squeezing it with unbearable pain. "General, it's late. You should rest. There will be battles tomorrow." The deputy general approached silently and reminded her in a soft voice. Jiang Ruorin came to her senses as if waking from a dream and nodded slightly. "You should go and rest too. Do not let the camp's guard down." Returning to her tent, Jiang Ruorin lay on the simple camp bed, tossing and turning restlessly. Meanwhile, in the capital, within the grand crimson bedchamber of the Eastern Palace, Li Chengjin held Lin Qinyao tightly in his arms, his eyes filled with deep affection. "Ayao, from today onward, you are my crown princess." Like a docile kitten, Lin Qinyao nestled into Li Chengjin's embrace and said sweetly, "Chengjin, I love you so much, I feel the same way." Li Chengjin said softly. At that moment, an urgent voice of a guard came from outside the bedchamber. "Your Highness, something terrible has happened." Lin Qinyao frowned, displeased, and said, "Today is the joyous day of my union with His Highness. Whatever it is, let it wait until tomorrow, Your Highness." "Did you not hear the Crown Princess's words? Step back at once." The guard had no choice but to turn and leave. For some reason, Li Chengjin felt a sudden, inexplicable unease. As if something was amiss. Today, not a single piece of news about Jiang Ruorin had reached him. By all logic, as a concubine, she should have already entered the Eastern Palace by now. After Lin Qinyao fell asleep, Li Chengjin gently got up and left the bedchamber. Seeing him come out, the guard hurried forward and said with trepidation, "Your Highness, General Jiang is missing." "What did you say?" Li Chengjin thought he had misheard. In an instant, he recalled the scene of Jiang Ruorin burning objects earlier, and his heart sank as if all the blood in his body had frozen. When did she disappear? Why wasn't it reported sooner? After the bridal sedan arrived at the Eastern Palace, we discovered that there was no one inside. However, Your Highness was in the midst of performing the wedding ceremony with the Crown Princess, and we truly had no opportunity to report it, which is why it was delayed. Li Chengjin's eyes turned red with anger as he roared, "What are you still standing around for? Send people to search for her immediately." He paced back and forth incessantly along the corridor of the Eastern Palace, his figure appearing particularly frantic under the flickering candlelight. "Send more men. We must find the concubine." After receiving the order, the guards quickly dispersed, the sound of horse hooves particularly jarring in the silent night. Li Chengjin returned to the hall and sat by the bed, watching the sleeping Lin Qiniao, his mind in turmoil. Jiang Ruorin's sudden disappearance gave him an ominous premonition. As dawn broke, Li Chengjin could no longer sit still. He mounted his horse and personally joined the search party. However, several hours passed, and there was still no trace of her. It wasn't until the emperor's personal eunuch hurried over. "Your Highness, His Majesty summons you to the palace immediately." Li Chengjin followed the eunuch to the Chengqian hall. As soon as he stepped in, a wine cup flew toward him, hitting him squarely on the forehead, instantly causing a red, swollen mark. "Why is your Majesty so enraged?" Li Chengjin asked, enduring the pain. "How dare you ask me? I have already sent General Jiang to the border, yet you are openly searching for someone in the capital. Isn't this making a fool of yourself?" The emperor glared with wide, furious eyes. Li Chengjin's face was filled with disbelief. "She is my concubine. Why did your Majesty send her to the borderlands without informing me?" Upon hearing this, the emperor grew even more furious. "When did I ever acknowledge her as your concubine? It was you who insisted on marrying Lin Qiniao and even sought to humiliate General Jiang." Li Chengjin was as if struck by lightning, collapsing to the ground, the light in his eyes instantly vanishing. How could this be? Seeing Shen Xingqian's breath faint, his face as pale as paper, Jiang Ruorin was extremely anxious and immediately secretly summoned several trusted generals. Inside the tent, the candlelight flickered, casting shadows on the solemn faces of everyone present. "I plan to personally lead a team of elite soldiers to search for the three-spring herb in the rainforest mountain. General, you must not go. The rainforest mountain is a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. The enemy is sure to have heavily fortified it. Going there would be like walking straight into a trap." A general, his face filled with anxiety, stepped forward, clasped his hands in a pleading gesture as he earnestly advised. Jiang Ruorin's gaze was as firm and resolute as a torch. "He ended up in this state because he saved me. How can I just stand by and watch him perish? Moreover, if we can find the three-spring grass, we might also be able to uncover the enemy's defensive arrangements in the rainforest mountain. For the war effort, this could be a turning point." Seeing her determination set and the look of burning the boats in her eyes, everyone knew that further persuasion would be futile. They could only sigh helplessly and ceased their attempts to dissuade her. The night was deep, like a vast piece of black silk tightly wrapping the heavens and earth. Jiang Ruorin led a small team of carefully selected warriors, taking advantage of the cover of darkness, quietly advancing toward the rainforest mountain. They cautiously avoided the enemy's patrol posts. Along the way, the cold wind howled. Finally, they arrived at the foot of the rainforest mountain. As soon as they stepped into the forest, a strong, damp, and stifling heat rushed over them. In the forest, various eerie insect chirps intertwined and echoed, sending chills down their spines and making their hair stand on end. "General, this forest is full of dangers. We must be extremely careful." A soldier lowered his voice, his expression tense as he reminded them. Jiang Ruorin gave a slight nod, his right hand gripping the sword hilt tightly, and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, stay close to me. Keep an eye on your surroundings at all times, and do not slack off in the slightest." They trudged through the mountain forest, thorns tearing their clothes, dew soaking their shoes and socks. From time to time, they encountered carefully set traps and enemy scouts hidden in the shadows. Jiang Ruorin repeatedly led everyone to turn danger into safety. Finally, deep in the mountain forest, they discovered an area where the three-spring grass was growing. The tender green three-spring grass swayed gently in the breeze, exuding a hint of vitality. A flicker of surprise flashed in Jiang Ruorin's eyes. Just as she was about to step forward to pick it, in an instant, a large number of enemy troops surged out from the surrounding bushes, surrounding them like a tide. It turned out that the enemy had long detected someone infiltrating the mountain forest and had set up an inescapable trap here. Jiang Ruorin's face suddenly changed color. She quickly turned around and organized the soldiers to resist. "Soldiers, we have found the three-spring grass. We must not let it fall into the hands of the enemy. Charge!" She raised her arm and shouted, her voice echoing through the mountain forest. Wielding her long sword like a black lightning bolt, she charged toward the enemy forces. On the battlefield, the glint of blades and swords flashed in an instant, and the clamor of battle cries was deafening. Jiang Ruorin fought 1 against 10, her long sword whirling with a fierce wind, wherever the cold light flickered. Enemy soldiers fell one after another, however, the enemy forces were numerous. Surging like relentless waves, one after another, gradually pushing them into a desperate situation. The soldiers were covered in wounds, their blood staining the ground beneath their feet. On the other side, at the border camp, Xianxia, under the careful care of the military doctor, was barely able to get up. When he learned that Jiang Ruorin had ventured alone into the rainforest mountains to save him, his heart was filled with worry and self-blame. Ignoring the military doctor's desperate attempts to stop him, he resolutely picked up his sword and walked out of the tent. I cannot let her risk her life for me. I must go and lend her a hand. Xianxia's gaze was resolute, his steps somewhat unsteady, yet they carried an unwavering determination. On the battlefield of Yulin Mountain, Jiang Ruorin and the soldiers were already covered in wounds, their strength gradually waning, just as they were on the brink of despair. Xianxia arrived with a team of soldiers, descending like divine reinforcements. The moment Jiang Ruorin saw Xianxia, her heart tightened sharply. How did you get here? It's too dangerous. How could I let you face the danger alone? As he spoke, Xianxia quickly joined the fight. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Jiang Ruorin, only then did Jiang Ruorin realize that this man's skills were truly remarkable. His swordsmanship was sharp, his moves were exquisite. And he was in no way inferior to her. Under the cooperation of the two, the enemy forces gradually became unable to hold their ground and began to retreat step by step. After repelling the enemy, both of them let out a long sigh of relief and slumped to the ground. Jiang Ruorin looked at Xianxia, her eyes filled with confusion and inquiry. Speak up, who exactly are you? An ordinary person could never possess such peerless martial arts skills. Xianxia's lips curved slightly upward, revealing a mysterious smile. You will find out in due time. After incorporating the 3-spring herb into the medicine, its miraculous effects quickly neutralized the potent poison within Xianxia's body. As the days passed, his health gradually improved, and his complexion grew increasingly rosy. Every day, he would find a quiet spot outside the camp, silently watching Jiang Ruorin as she busied herself. When Jiang Ruorin commanded the troops during drills, her spirited and heroic demeanor, like the warm sun of spring, was deeply imprinted in Xianxia's heart. One day, after finishing her military duties, Jiang Ruorin returned to the camp, her body slightly weary. She saw Xianxia sitting upright at the desk, his slender fingers gently toying with a long spear she usually left unused, the tassel swaying slightly at his fingertips. Noticing Jiang Ruorin's arrival, Xianxia immediately stood up and walked toward her with steady steps. A faint smile curling at the corner of his mouth. General Jiang, you've worked hard in today's drills. Jiang Ruorin gave a slight wave of her hand, deftly removed her helmet, and casually picked up a cloth towel nearby to wipe the fine beads of sweat from her forehead. I'm used to it, but what about you? Have you fully recovered? Xianxia nodded slightly, his deep gaze slowly falling on the long spear, a flicker of eagerness flashing in his eyes. General Jiang's spear technique is truly exquisite. That day in the rainforest mountains, I was fortunate enough to witness it and have since held great admiration. I wonder if the general would be willing to offer some guidance. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin raised her delicate eyebrows, a fighting spirit instantly igniting in her eyes as she responded with great enthusiasm. I wouldn't dare call it teaching, but a friendly spar between us would certainly be interesting. The two walked side by side to the spacious training ground outside the camp tent. Jiang Ruorin held a long spear, her posture as straight as a pine tree, the spear tip pointing directly toward the sky. She took the initiative to strike, her wrist flicking lightly as the spear tip danced nimbly, stirring up a whistling wind and swirling the dust on the ground. Xianxia was equally formidable, his wooden sword whirling with a fierce and graceful momentum, carving out sharp and elegant arcs. For a moment, the long spear and wooden sword clashed, producing resounding thuds. The surrounding soldiers, seeing this, quickly gathered around, forming layers upon layers, encircling the two in the center. Cheers from the soldiers rose and fell in waves. Excellent, beautiful, the shouts interwove. Echoing over the training ground, after a fierce bout, Jiang Ruorin stood with her spear, her hair slightly disheveled, her face flushed from the intense fight. Her eyes were full of admiration as she looked at Shen Xingchen. Master Shen, your skills are impressive. May I ask who your teacher is? Shen Xingchen merely curled the corners of his lips slightly, revealing a mysterious smile as he gently shook his head and modestly said, as a man of the mountains, what I have learned is but a superficial skill, hardly worth mentioning. From then on, Shen Xingchen often discussed military affairs with Jiang Ruorin. Although he never spoke of his past experiences, whenever the conversation turned to troop deployment, battle formations, or military strategies, he could always speak at length with unique insights. During a military meeting to prepare for a large-scale counterattack, the atmosphere in the tent was tense. Jiang Ruorin stood before the massive map, her expression serious as she pointed to several key locations on it. The enemy's defenses at these strategic passes are extremely tight. If we launch a frontal assault, our forces will suffer heavy losses. Does anyone have a good strategy? The generals exchanged glances, their brows furrowed tightly. The tent fell into silence, and for a moment, no one could offer a feasible plan. At that moment, Shen Xingchen stood up and walked calmly to the map. He extended his finger, pointing to a hidden valley on the map. General, this valley may appear treacherous and difficult to traverse. But based on my observations over the past few days, the enemy's defenses here are relatively weak. If we dispatch a surprise force to flank them from this direction and coordinate with our frontal troops to form a pincer attack, we might successfully break through the enemy's defenses. Jiang Ruorin's eyes instantly lit up, her gaze fixed tightly on the valley marked on the map. After a moment of careful thought, she nodded firmly. Excellent strategy. We shall proceed as young Master Shen suggests. With Shen Xingchen's assistance, the counterattack plan was implemented in an orderly manner. Jiang Ruorin personally led the main force in a feigned frontal assault. For a time, war drums thundered, and battle cries shook the heavens, successfully drawing the attention of the enemy's main forces. Meanwhile, Shen Xingchen led a carefully selected elite force. Stealthily advancing along the hidden valley, the valley was overgrown with thorns, dotted with strange rocks, and the path was rugged and difficult to traverse. Yet, under Shen Xingchen's leadership, the soldiers pressed on without complaint, relying on their tenacious will to move forward. When they descended like divine soldiers, appearing unexpectedly behind the enemy lines, the enemy camp was thrown into chaos instantly. Soldiers panicked and scattered in all directions. Jiang Ruorin keenly seized the opportunity and decisively launched a full-scale attack. Under attack from both sides, the enemy found themselves caught in a pincer movement, and their defensive line crumbled instantly. This battle resulted in a resounding victory, with the army successfully reclaiming multiple lost territories. After the war, Jiang Ruorin held a banquet in the camp to reward the soldiers. The camp was brightly lit, filled with the aroma of wine, and everyone was laughing and chatting, creating an exceptionally lively atmosphere. Jiang Ruorin held a wine cup, walking with light steps to stand before Shen Xingchen. With a sincere gaze and a gentle smile, she said, "Young Master Shen, this great victory is all thanks to your strategic planning. This cup of wine, I offer to you." Shen Xingchen quickly stood up, taking the wine cup with both hands, as his eyes met Jiang Ruorin's. A moment of indescribable tenderness and deep affection flashed in his gaze. "You flatter me, General. I merely contributed a modest effort. To have been able to assist you in reclaiming the lost territory is truly an honor for me." The two exchanged a smile, then raised their heads and drank the wine in one go. Perhaps it was the alcohol's influence. Jiang Ruorin suddenly leaned close to Shen Xingchen, her cheeks flushed. "Ah Chen, let's go out for a walk." Shen Xingchen stiffened. "You? What did you call me?" "Ah, Chen." Jiang Ruorin smiled like a child. After that, the two of them left the tent. The moonlight was exceptionally beautiful tonight. The moonlight, like water, spilled over the desolate plains of the borderlands, covering the earth in a silvery glow. Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen walked side by side on the small path outside the camp, the night breeze gently brushing past, carrying a hint of coolness. Jiang Ruorin's cheeks were still flushed, and her steps were a bit unsteady, clearly still under the influence of alcohol. Shen Xingchen followed carefully by her side, afraid she might stumble and fall. "Ah Chen, do you know?" Jiang Ruorin suddenly stopped in her tracks, turned around, and looked intently at Shen Xingchen. "I've never felt as light-hearted as I do now." Shen Xingchen was slightly taken aback, then smiled gently. "You carry heavy responsibilities every day, so it's only natural that you feel burdened." Jiang Ruorin shook her head, a hint of melancholy flashing in her eyes. "No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about feeling light-hearted inside. In the past, I was always bound by so many things. My heart was filled with responsibilities, missions, and those feelings I shouldn't have had." Shen Xingchen fell silent for a moment, then softly asked, "Are you talking about His Highness the Crown Prince?" Jiang Ruorin did not answer directly. Instead, she looked up at the night sky, where the stars twinkled like countless untold stories. She took a deep breath and slowly said, "When I was young, I thought he was my whole world. He protected me, taught me to write, and kept me company through the loneliest days. But later, he changed, or perhaps I changed. The distance between us grew wider and wider, until in the end, he chose someone else." Shen Xingchen listened quietly without interrupting her. "But now, I no longer feel sad for him." Jiang Ruorin suddenly smiled, her expression carrying a sense of relief. "Ah Chen, do you know, ever since you appeared, my life seems to have changed. I've realized that a free and unrestrained life suits me better than being trapped within palace walls." Shen Xingchen's heart trembled slightly, and a flicker of complex emotion passed through his eyes. He opened his mouth as if wanting to say something, but in the end, he only whispered, "A general should live a remarkable life. You are a born military talent and should not be bound by anyone." Jiang Ruorin turned her head, her gaze fixed directly on Shen Xingchen. "Aiken, you can call me Ruorin when we're alone." Shen Xingchen nodded. "But, Aiken, who exactly are you? How do you have such excellent martial skills? And why are you so familiar with military strategy? Who are you, really?" Shen Xingchen fell silent for a moment, a flicker of hesitation flashing in his eyes. He knew that he could not keep hiding it forever. He took a deep breath and slowly said, "General, the truth is, I am the son of the king of the northern frontier." "The king of the northern frontier?" Jiang Ruorin was taken aback, then widened her eyes. "You are the son of the king of the northern frontier? But didn't the king of the northern frontier die 10 years ago?" Shen Xingchen nodded, a flicker of pain flashing in his eyes. 10 years ago. The king of the northern frontier was executed by the imperial court on charges of rebellion, and his entire family was executed. I narrowly escaped, changed my name, and wandered the world. All these years, I have been searching for an opportunity to clear my family's name." Jiang Ruorin looked at him in shock, her heart filled with mixed emotions. She had never imagined that this gentle and refined man before her carried such a heavy past. "Then why did you come here?" Jiang Ruorin asked. Shen Xingchen let out a bitter laugh. "I originally intended to infiltrate the enemy camp to find an opportunity to clear my family's name, but I was ambushed on the way and severely injured. Fortunately, the general saved me." Jiang Ruorin fell silent for a moment, then suddenly grasped Shen Xingchen's hand, her gaze resolute. "Ah Chen, don't worry, I will definitely help you. No matter what your family has been through, I will stand by you and get to the bottom of it." Shen Xingchen looked at Jiang Ruorin, his eyes filled with tenderness, their figures stretched long under the moonlight, as if merging into one. On the other side, after Jiang Ruorin left, Li Chengjin prepared to personally head to the border, but as a result, the emperor punished him with a month of house arrest in the Eastern Palace. Lin Qiniao didn't understand why Li Chengjin suddenly wouldn't even look at her. She was filled with anger and didn't know how to vent it. So she took it out on the palace maids. 2 palace maids had their faces scratched, and Li Chengjin didn't even bother to ask about it. "Your Highness, the crown princess was just punishing a palace maid and ended up beating one to death. Would you like to go and see?" if she wants to beat them, let her. There's no need to report it to me. The guard looked as if he had something to say but hesitated, which only added to Li Qingjin's irritation. Speak up if you have something to say, Your Highness. The Crown Princess is currently punishing Miss Cheng. She is close to General Jiang and was brought to the Eastern Palace by him. If she were to die, I fear General Jiang would be heartbroken. A flicker of anger suddenly ignited in Li Qingjin's eyes. Let's go, let's take a look. Just as they reached outside the hall, they heard Lin Qiniao's furious voice from within. You lowly wretch. Did Jiang Ruorin tell you about what happened back then? If you know, keep it to yourself and don't go wagging your tongue, or I'll have it ripped out. Your Highness, I understand. General Jiang told me that no matter what, I must never do anything to harm you. Lin Qiniao slapped the palace maid across the face. Would she be so kind? Do you think I don't know what you're scheming? If His Highness finds out about what happened back then, I'll turn you into a human pig and feed you to the dogs. The palace maid trembled violently. Crown Princess, I understand. I will keep my mouth shut. At that moment, Li Chengjin suddenly kicked the door open and strode inside. What is it? Is there something I shouldn't know? Lin Qiniao immediately put on a smiling face. Your Highness, you jest. What could possibly be the matter? It's just this lowly wretch who stole my hairpin. I'm punishing her right now. Li Chengjin's eyes gleamed with a sinister light, causing Lin Qiniao to quickly fall silent in fear. His gaze was sharp as a torch, piercing straight toward the trembling palace maid. Speak, what exactly are you hiding from this crown prince? The palace maid was so frightened that she fell to her knees with a thud, tears streaming from her eyes, her body trembling like a sieve. Seeing this, Lin Qiniao felt a pang of panic. She stepped forward, forcing herself to appear calm, and said, Your Highness, she is merely a lowly maid who stole something. Why bother stooping to her level? However, Li Chengjin seemed not to hear her, his gaze fixed intently on the palace maid, as if trying to see right through her. The palace maid timidly looked up, glancing at Li Chengjin and then at Lin Qiniao, whose face was flushed with anger. After hesitating for a long moment, she finally gritted her teeth and spoke. Your Highness, back then when you were attacked in the palace, the one who saved you was not the crown princess, but General Jiang. As soon as these words were spoken, it was like a massive stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up 1,000 waves. Li Chengjin felt a sudden buzz in his head, as if struck by a bolt of lightning, and he stood there frozen in place. What did you say? Say it again. Li Chengjin's voice trembled, carrying a hint of disbelief. The palace maid trembled with fear, yet she dared not remain silent, and could only repeat once more, it was General Jiang who saved you back then. The crown princess, she deceived you. Li Chengjin slowly turned his head, his gaze fixed on Lin Qiniao, filled with anger and disappointment. Is this true? Lin Qiniao's face instantly turned as pale as paper, and beads of sweat the size of beans rolled down her forehead. She fell to her knees with a thud, clutching the hem of Li Chengjin's robe, and cried out, Your Highness, I did all this because I love you too much. I was afraid of losing you, that's why. Li Chengjin flung her hand away, furious. How dare you deceive me, the crown prince? Do you really think I wouldn't dare to kill you? Lin Qiniao wept bitterly, desperately kowtowing, her forehead hitting the ground with a dull thud. Your Highness, I beg for your forgiveness. I truly know I was wrong. But Li Chengjin remained unmoved, the fire of rage burning fiercely in his heart. Wishing he could tear this hypocritical woman before him to pieces right then and there. From this day forward, you are no longer my crown princess. I divorce you immediately. Upon hearing this, Lin Qiniao felt as if struck by lightning. She abruptly raised her head, her eyes filled with despair. No, Your Highness, I cannot leave you. Li Chengjin, however, did not spare her another glance. He turned and strode away. Lin Qiniao collapsed to the ground in a daze, her eyes vacant. She never imagined that the carefully woven lies she had crafted would be mercilessly exposed, and all she had painstakingly built would vanish into thin air. The seed of hatred quickly took root and sprouted in her heart. She secretly vowed that Li Chengjin would pay the price for his decision. Returning to his palace, Li Chengjin was filled with thoughts of Jiang Ruorin. He recalled the little moments he had shared with Jiang Ruorin in their childhood, back then. Though she preferred martial attire over feminine adornments, she was sincere and kind, always caring for him deeply, yet he had been blinded by Lin Qinyao's sweet words and had betrayed Jiang Ruorin's profound affection. Now that the truth had come to light, he realized with a shock just how precious a thing he had lost. Regret and self-blame washed over him like a tide. He punched the table again and again until his fingers were covered in blood. Previously, the Lin family had formed cliques for personal gain, with ample evidence of their crimes. However, because of Lin Qinyao, Li Chengjin had always found ways to clean up the mess for them. Now, it was time to expose their crimes. After that, Li Chengjin sent his trusted aides to gather evidence from all sides, and they soon obtained solid proof of the Lin family's various misdeeds. Upon learning of this, the emperor was furious and ordered a thorough investigation. For a time, the capital was in turmoil, and everyone in the Lin household was on edge. Upon hearing the news, Lin Qinyao was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth in distress. Faced with the court's rigorous investigation, Lin's father was thrown into a panic. In order to save his family, he ran around everywhere pleading for mercy, even going so far as to humble himself and beg the officials he had once offended. However, it was all in vain. As the investigation deepened, the crimes of the Lin family were exposed one by one, with irrefutable evidence. Finally, the emperor ordered Lin's father to be dismissed from his post and investigated, and the family's property was confiscated. Overnight, the entire Lin family fell from the clouds to the depths. Lin Qinyao also became a despised outcast, shunned by everyone. Those who once flattered and fawned over her now avoided her at all costs. She watched her family fall apart, her heart filled with despair and resentment. In this desperate situation, a wild idea began to take root in her mind. Since Li Chengjin had left her with nothing, she would make him taste the bitterness of losing everything as well. Lin Qinyao began searching everywhere for an opportunity to exact revenge on Li Chengjin. She spent her days wandering the streets and alleys of the capital, trying to find Li Chengjin's weaknesses. By chance, she met a down-and-out scholar. The scholar, named Zhao Wen, came from a poor family and had repeatedly failed the imperial examinations, leaving him filled with resentment toward the court. After speaking with him, Lin Qinyao discovered that he also harbored ill feelings toward Li Chengjin, and so she began to devise a plan. She deliberately approached Zhao Wen, showing him warmth and care, attending to his every need. Zhao Wen, who was already lonely, suddenly had a woman showing him kindness, and his heart couldn't help but stir. Seeing the timing was right, Lin Qinyao tearfully recounted to Zhao Wen how she had been abandoned by Li Chengjin, stirring his sympathy and anger. She seized the opportunity to encourage Zhao Wen to find a way to take revenge on Li Chengjin. Moved by her words and fueled by his own resentment, Zhao Wen agreed. After that, Lin Qinyao secretly colluded with Zhao Wen and began plotting how to frame Li Chengjin. They spread rumors everywhere, claiming that Li Chengjin intended to rebel, and even forged some letters as evidence. These rumors quickly spread throughout the capital, causing widespread panic for a time. Upon hearing this, the emperor was greatly shocked and immediately ordered an investigation. Upon learning of this, Li Chengjin was furious, knowing it must be Lin Qinyao's doing behind the scenes, while sending people to gather evidence to prove his innocence. He secretly investigated the whereabouts of Lin Qinyao and Zhao Wen. After much effort, Li Chengjin finally found evidence of Lin Qinyao's collusion with Zhao Wen. Armed with this evidence, he went before the emperor and reported everything. After seeing the evidence, the emperor was furious and ordered the arrest of Lin Qinyao and Zhao Wen. Upon learning that her plan had been exposed, Lin Qinyao was terrified and panicked. She knew she could not escape this time. Yet a glimmer of hope still lingered in her heart. When the soldiers stormed into her hiding place, Lin Qinyao tried to resist but was easily subdued by them. She was brought before Li Chengjin, her hair disheveled and her face haggard, having long lost the radiance of her former self. Li Chengjin looked at her, his eyes filled with disgust. "You vicious woman, to seek revenge against me, the crown prince, you have committed such a heinous act. Today will be your last day." Lin Qinyao showed no fear. She sneered coldly. "Li Chengjin, Do you think you've won? You've lost Jiangruorin. Even if you kill me, you will never win her heart. Upon hearing this, Li Chengjin felt a sharp pang in his heart. Gritting his teeth, he said, all of this is your doing. You deserve this punishment. With that, he drew the sword from his waist and, without hesitation, plunged it into Lin Qiniao's chest. Your Highness, how cruel! Before the words had fully left her lips, she had already collapsed to the ground. He looked at the pool of blood on the floor, yet his heart remained utterly unmoved. After dealing with Lin Qiniao's matter, Li Chengjin decided to head to the borderlands to find Jiangruorin, apologize to her in person, and beg for her forgiveness. Despite the emperor's opposition, Li Chengjin resolutely embarked on the journey to the borderlands. Along the way, he endured hardships, traveling day and night. However, while passing through the desert, he lost his way. Jiangruorin had been studying tactics with Xinxian for several days in a row, neglecting meals, and suddenly fainted. Xinxian was greatly alarmed and quickly carried Jiangruorin to the bed in the tent, anxiously calling for the military doctor. The military doctor hurried over and, after carefully checking the pulse, slightly furrowed his brow. General, you must take care of your health and not overexert yourself. This is a case of exhaustion from overwork. With a deficiency of qi and blood, if this continues, your body will not be able to bear it. The military doctor's tone was filled with concern and worry. Xinxian stood nearby, his handsome face etched with anxiety as he stared intently at Jiangruorin, who lay on the bed looking slightly pale. Military doctor, is there a good remedy? He asked urgently, his voice carrying a barely noticeable tremor. The military doctor pondered for a moment, then picked up his pen to write a prescription and offered some additional advice. This medicine must be taken on time, and you must also rest more, General, to recuperate and restore your health. After the military doctor left, Xinxian personally stayed by Jiangruorin's side, his gaze never leaving her face. He gently held Jiangruorin's hand, which was covered with thin calluses from years of holding a gun, yet felt so delicate in his palm. Ruo Yin, you must get better soon, he murmured to himself, his voice low and gentle. A few days later, Jiangruorin's health gradually improved. Seeing her complexion restored, Xinxian was filled with joy. Ruorin, how are you feeling today? He asked with a smile, his eyes full of concern. Much better, thank you for your concern. Jiangruorin smiled back and got up, intending to get out of bed. Take it slow, Xinxian quickly supported her. The weather is nice today, let me accompany you for a walk outside. The two strolled outside the border camp. In the distance, soldiers were engaged in their daily drills, with shouts and battle cries echoing through the air. Jiangruorin gazed at the scene before her, her heart filled with contentment. With you by my side, everything goes much more smoothly. She turned to look at Xinxian, a hint of tenderness in her gaze. Xinxian was slightly taken aback, then smiled and said, it's my honor to be able to share your worries. He paused for a moment before adding, Ruo Yin, once the war is over, what are your plans? Jiangruorin gazed into the distance, lost in thought for a moment. I want to return to the capital to clear your family's name, and then, perhaps find a peaceful place surrounded by mountains and rivers to spend the rest of my days. Her voice was soft, yet it carried a firm resolve. Xinxian felt a stir in his heart, and he gently took Jiangruorin's hand. Ruorin, wherever you go, I am willing to accompany you. His gaze was deep and fervent, as if he wanted to imprint Jiangruorin deeply in his heart. As the footsteps of autumn quietly arrived, the nights at the frontier became increasingly chilly. Xinxian specially found some colored paper and bamboo strips, carefully making sky lanterns inside the tent. These days, seeing Jiangruorin working tirelessly day and night, her expression filled with exhaustion, he thought of doing something to make her happy. Once the idea of making a sky lantern came to mind, he could no longer hold back. He wanted to create a touch of unique warmth for Jiangruorin in this harsh borderland. The paper gently turned in his hands, emitting a faint rustling sound. He carefully bent the bamboo strips into various shapes, securing them meticulously with thin ropes. After what seemed like an eternity, several exquisite sky lanterns finally took shape. The frames of the sky lanterns were sturdily constructed from bamboo strips, with colorful paper stretched over them, emitting a soft, gentle glow. Xianxia examined his creations, a satisfied smile unconsciously curling at the corners of his mouth. He imagined Jiang Ruorin's expression upon seeing the sky lanterns, his heart filled with anticipation. After Jiang Ruorin finished handling military affairs and returned to the tent with a slightly weary body, she was instantly captivated by the scene before her. Several sky lanterns were hung in an orderly yet varied arrangement inside the tent, their soft light illuminating the entire space and adding a touch of warmth to the simple camp. She was slightly taken aback, her gaze immediately falling on Xianxia, who stood beneath the lanterns, looking at her with a face full of smiles. "Chen, did you make this?" Jiang Ruorin asked in surprise, her eyes filled with delight. Xianxia walked up and gently took her hand. "Yes, I saw how hard you've been working these days and wanted to give you a surprise. The moonlight is beautiful tonight, let's go out and release a sky lantern." Jiang Ruorin nodded happily and walked out of the tent with Xianxia. The night sky over the border was dotted with twinkling stars, and moonlight cascaded like water over the land. The two arrived at an open area, where Xianxia picked up a sky lantern, carefully lit the candle, and gently lifted the lantern. "Ruorin, come, let's make a wish together." Jiang Ruorin closed her eyes, clasped her hands together, and silently made a wish in her heart. She only hoped that for the rest of her life, the country would be peaceful, and both she and her loved ones would be safe and well. "Aiken, what did you wish for?" "My wish is that your wish comes true." Jiang Ruorin lowered her gaze and smiled, his eyes rested on the woman, glowing softly. Time slipped away quietly, and in the blink of an eye, it was Jiang Ruorin's birthday. On the day of her birthday, Jiang Ruorin was still, as always, helping to treat the soldiers in her care, until night fell. She had not caught sight of Xianxia, and only then did she panic. She summoned the general. "Have you seen Xianxia? General, wasn't he with you all along?" Jiang Ruorin instantly grew uneasy. However, military camps have always been heavily guarded, so it's impossible for enemy troops to infiltrate. How could a living person just suddenly disappear? "General, something terrible has happened. Someone has been severely injured on the back mountain." "What did you say? Take me there immediately." A group of people led Jiang Ruorin to a remote small hillside outside the camp. Jiang Ruorin had been praying the whole time. "Xianxia, please don't let anything happen to you, General. The injured person is right ahead." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin immediately ran over, only to see a floor covered in flower petals and candles. "Ruorin, it's freezing cold, why are you sweating so much?" Jiang Ruorin was so startled that she stumbled and collided head-on with the person in front of her. "Ah Chen, so it wasn't you who got hurt? You have no idea how scared I was." Xianxia's eyes were filled with laughter. "I never imagined Ruorin would be so concerned about me. So, where is the injured person?" Xianxia, seeing that she was still preoccupied with the injured, suddenly felt a pang of guilt. "Ruorin, no one is hurt." Only then did Jiang Ruorin realize that he had tricked her into coming here to celebrate her birthday. "Chen, next time remember to come up with a different excuse." As she spoke, she picked up a candle from the floor. In the candlelight, his sharply defined face was visible. She thought to herself, how could someone be born so handsome? At this very moment, fireworks suddenly burst into bloom in the night sky. The colorful fireworks adorned the night sky like a dream, and Jiang Ruorin was so startled by the sudden beauty that her eyes widened in amazement. Nearly dropping the candle in her hand, she turned her head to look at Xianxia. Her eyes filled with surprise and emotion. Xianxia smiled gently, softly taking her hand and saying, "Ruorin, happy birthday. These past days, you've been so busy with the war and the soldiers that you forgot your own birthday. I wanted to give you an unforgettable night." Jiang Ruorin's eyes grew slightly moist, as she looked at the man before her, who had gone to such great lengths for her. A warmth she had never felt before welled up in her heart. "Ah Chen, thank you. This is the most wonderful birthday I've ever had." Her voice carried a hint of a sob. The two of them stood quietly beneath the fireworks, savoring this rare and tender moment. After a long while, Jiang Ruorin finally snapped back to reality. She looked around and noticed that some tables and chairs were set up on the hillside, with simple yet exquisite food spread across the tables, along with a small, delicate pastry. Xianxia carefully picked up the pastry and brought it to Jiang Ruorin's lips. "Try it. I learned how to make this especially for you. It's really delicious." Watching Jiang Ruorin devour the pastry, Xianxia couldn't help but feel a mix of helplessness and affection as he gently stroked her hair. It seems you haven't had your evening meal properly again," Jiang Ruorin quickly said with a pitiful look. "That's only because I've been searching for you all this time. I haven't seen you all day. So how could I have the heart to eat my evening meal?" Upon hearing this, Xianxia pulled the woman before him into his arms. "Ruorin, I promise I won't scare you like this again in the future." "Jiang Ruorin, the Crown Prince, have finally found you." The sudden voice shattered the beautiful moment. Li Chengjin stood at the foot of the hillside, weary from his long journey, yet his eyes burned with an unwavering determination. Seeing Jiang Ruorin and Xianxia embracing, his heart clenched as if struck by a heavy blow. The Jiang Ruorin who once had eyes only for him was now in someone else's arms. A reality he struggled to accept, his heart churning with complex emotions. Jiang Ruorin turned her head in surprise upon hearing the voice. When she realized it was Li Chengjin, she instinctively glanced at Xianxia. She was afraid Xianxia might be unhappy. This subtle movement did not escape Li Chengjin's notice, and a wave of bitterness surged in his heart, as if countless tiny needles were pricking him gently. "How did you get here?" Jiang Ruorin spoke coldly, her voice devoid of any warmth. In the past, she had tossed and turned countless nights, longing for Li Chengjin to look back at her. But when that day finally arrived, she realized her heart had long become still, no longer stirring even the slightest ripple for him. Li Chengjin trudged step by step up the hillside, standing before Jiang Ruorin, his lips trembling as he struggled to find the words to say, gazing at Jiang Ruorin's unfamiliar and cold eyes. Memories of their past interactions involuntarily flooded his mind. Moments he had once overlooked now surged like a tide, filling him with deep regret. "Ruo Yin, I came to apologize to you. I wonder what mistake the Crown Prince has made to come all this way to apologize." Li Chengjin spoke with difficulty, his voice filled with deep regret. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have believed Lin Qinyao's lies and betrayed your sincere heart." As he spoke, his eyes grew red. "Only now do I realize that all these years, the one who truly loved me was you, and yet I pushed you away with my own hands." Jiang Ruorin listened quietly, her expression unchanged, Li Chengjin's words not stirring much of a ripple in her heart. "Let bygones be bygones," Jiang Ruorin said softly, her tone tinged with a sense of release. "Now, I have my own life and people I need to protect." Xianxia stood by her side during her most difficult moments, fighting alongside her and facing life and death trials on the battlefield together. The bond between them was forged in blood and fire, as solid as a rock. "The person you want to protect, are you talking about him?" Xianxia instinctively shielded Jiang Ruorin behind him. Li Chengjin watched the intimate scene between the two. A sharp pang of pain piercing his heart, he couldn't bear to give up just like that. "Ruorin, I know I've hurt you, but I truly regret it. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes. Please give me another chance." Li Chengjin's voice was filled with pleading. At this moment, he set aside the pride of a crown prince, all in the hope of winning back Jiang Ruorin's heart. Jiang Ruorin slightly furrowed her brows, never expecting Li Chengjin to be so persistent. "Li Chengjin, I have let go of the past. There will be no more ties between us." "No, Ruorin, as long as you come back with me, you will be my crown princess. Lin Qinyao is already dead. I will welcome you as my crown princess with a grand procession, and I swear that in this life, I will have only you and never take anyone else." Li Chengjin grew emotional. He reached out to grab Jiang Ruorin but was stopped by Xianxia. A flicker of anger flashed in Xianxia's eyes. He tightly gripped Li Chengjin's wrist and forcefully pushed his hand away. "Your Highness, please show some restraint," Xianxia said coldly. "Ruorin no longer loves you, so why must you act this way? You're just someone who appeared halfway. What right do you have to steal Ruorin's heart?" Li Chengjin questioned. Unable to accept the fact that Jiang Ruorin had fallen in love with someone else, in his heart. Jiang Ruorin had always been the woman who followed behind him and obeyed his every word. Now, her change left him feeling at a loss. Chen has always been sincere with me, staying by my side and supporting me during my most difficult times, Jiang Ruorin said. These are things you have never done. Jiang Ruorin's words pierced Li Qingjin's heart like a sharp blade. He recalled the days he spent with Lin Qiniao, his indifference and neglect toward Jiang Ruorin, and his heart filled with regret. If time could be reversed, he would have cherished Jiang Ruorin properly. But now, it was all too late, Ruo Yin. But do you really think he is sincere with you? He is the son of the Northern King. He approached you only for your power. Only when you return triumphantly and have His Majesty thoroughly investigate the events of that year can the Northern King's case be overturned, and he can inherit his father's title. Shen Xingchen lowered his gaze to look at Jiang Ruorin, Ruo Yin. As long as I clear my father's wrongful case, I am willing to live in obscurity and travel the mountains and waters with you. Jiang Ruorin smiled, then turned her gaze to Li Chengjin. Your Highness, no matter what purpose Chen has, I don't care, I am willing to stay by his side. Li Chengjin's eyes were red at the corners. So we can't go back, Li Chengjin, Jiang Ruorin said. I hope you can find your own happiness. With that, Jiang Ruorin took Shen Xingchen's hand and turned to leave. Li Chengjin watched their retreating figures, tears streaming from his eyes. He stood there in a daze, the cold wind blowing past, tears freezing on his face. In the evening, Li Chengjin prepared to enter the tent to find Jiang Ruorin but was stopped outside. Li Chengjin stood rigidly outside the tent, letting the icy raindrops beat mercilessly against him. His heart felt as if it had been pierced by countless fine needles. The pain so intense it was almost numb. The rain grew heavier, droplets hitting the ground and splashing up layers of water, much like the turmoil in Li Chengjin's heart at that moment. His body trembled slightly in the wind and rain, yet he felt no cold. His mind wholly consumed with thoughts of how to win back Jiang Ruorin's heart. He knew all too well that Jiang Ruorin's current indifference toward him was entirely of his own making. But how could he bear to give up, after all? The Jiang Ruorin of the past had loved him with such fiery passion. After what felt like an eternity, he collapsed weakly to the ground, his gaze vacant as he stared at the top of the tent. Rainwater dripped continuously from his hair, pooling into a puddle on the ground. Meanwhile, inside Jiang Ruorin's tent, Shi and Shen Xingchen were sitting around a campfire. Jiang Ruorin gently wiped the longsword in her hand. This blade had accompanied her for many years, enduring countless battles. Yet its edge remained as cold and sharp as ever. Shen Xingchen, meanwhile, carefully inspected the arrows nearby, ensuring each one was razor-sharp and capable of delivering maximum impact on the battlefield. Though both were focused on their tasks, their gazes occasionally met, revealing a hint of tenderness and concern in each other's eyes. Ruorin, today Li Chengjin came to see you. Shen Xingchen broke the silence, his voice tinged with a trace of worry. Jiang Ruorin paused her movements, looked up, and met Shen Xingchen's gaze with calm eyes. Aiken, you need not worry, what's past is past, and now my heart belongs only to you. Shen Xingchen nodded slightly, a faint smile curling at the corners of his mouth. I do believe you, but I fear he may continue to pester you and cause you harm. Rest assured, I will have someone escort him back to the palace first thing tomorrow morning. The two exchanged a smile before returning to their busy tasks. Li Chengjin had been standing outside the military camp in the rain all night, his head dizzy and his body swaying unsteadily. He was just about to go rest in another tent when a deafening clamor suddenly erupted around him. Enemy attack, enemy attack. A sharp cry instantly pierced the sky, followed by the dense sound of galloping horses. Earth-shaking battle cries, and the clashing of weapons. The entire world seemed to plunge into a chaotic sea of fire in an instant. The enemy surged toward the military camp like a raging tide, overwhelming everything in its path. He barged into the tent without a second thought, only to find that Jiang Ruorin was nowhere to be seen. Li Chengjin struggled to make his way through the chaotic crowd, his steps unsteady as he anxiously searched for Jiang Ruorin's figure. At this moment, There is only one belief in his heart: he must find her and keep her safe. Finally, amidst a flurry of blades and swords, he saw Jiang Ruorin. Her posture was heroic, and the spear in her hand danced with fierce momentum. The enemy forces were being driven back in defeat. However, at the critical moment, a cold arrow shot out from the darkness like a ghost, carrying a deadly chill as it flew swiftly toward Jiang Ruorin's back. Li Qingjin's pupils instantly dilated, and his heart seemed to stop. Without any time to think, his body reacted first, rushing forward like an arrow released from a bowstring. With a dull thud, the sharp arrow deeply embedded itself into Li Qingjin's back. The arrowhead pierced through his chest, and blood gushed out like a spring, instantly staining his clothes and rapidly spreading in the cold rain. Li Qingjin's body suddenly swayed, his legs went weak, and he slowly collapsed toward the ground. Jiang Ruorin heard the unusual commotion behind her. Her heart jolted in alarm as she swiftly turned her head. When she saw Li Qingjin lying in a pool of blood, she felt as if struck by lightning. Nearly dropping the spear in her hand, she quickly swung her spear, dispatching several nearby enemies attempting to approach, then rushed to Li Qingjin's side in a single stride, picking him up without hesitation. "Li Qingjin, how are you?" She lowered her head, looking at Li Qingjin's face, pale as paper, his lips devoid of color. His eyes tightly shut, a sense of urgency welled up in her heart. Li Qingjin seemed to sense Jiang Ruorin's call, slowly opening his eyes a crack, a faint glimmer of light flickering in his gaze. When he saw Jiang Ruorin's anxious face, he managed to force a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. "Ruorin, I finally protected you once." Before he could finish speaking, he lost consciousness once more, his body going limp as he collapsed into Jiang Ruorin's arms, holding Li Qingjin. Jiang Ruorin hurriedly rushed toward the military camp. "Medic, medic!" Inside the tent, the atmosphere was so oppressive it felt suffocating, and the medic's expression was as grave as dark clouds before a storm. He carefully laid Li Qingjin flat on the couch, swiftly cut open the clothing on his back, and examined the wound. When he saw the deep, bone-exposing wound that was continuously oozing blood, the military doctor's brow furrowed. "General, the Crown Prince's injury is severe. The arrow is poisoned, and we must detoxify him as soon as possible, otherwise." The military doctor's voice was low and heavy. He didn't finish the second half of his sentence, but Jiang Ruorin understood its meaning. "Spare no expense, you must cure him." The military doctor nodded, quickly began preparing various herbs and tools, and launched into intense rescue efforts. For the next several days and nights, Jiang Ruorin hardly closed her eyes, staying by Li Qingjin's bedside. Not daring to leave for a moment, the tent was filled with the strong scent of medicinal herbs, and the medicine pot on the stove bubbled with steam. Jiang Ruorin personally brewed the medicine and changed the dressings for Li Qingjin. Sun Xingchen looked at Jiang Ruorin's absent-minded state and could only silently stay by her side. As night fell, Jiang Ruorin fell asleep by Li Qingjin's bedside. Sun Xingchen tiptoed over and covered her with a blanket. "Aiken, Aiken, yes, I'm here." Sun Xingchen kissed Jiang Ruorin's forehead, his eyes filled with affection. The next morning, Li Qingjin woke up groggily, gradually regaining consciousness. Jiang Ruorin let out a sigh of relief, her brows finally relaxing. "Your Highness, are you still feeling unwell?" Li Qingjin's eyes dimmed slightly. "Ruo Yin, must you be so distant with me? We were never close to begin with, so how can there be talk of distance?" Jiang Ruorin lowered her gaze. "Your Highness, please rest a while longer. I will go prepare your medicine." A few days later, Li Qingjin's condition had stabilized considerably. Jiang Ruorin, like a tightly wound clock, plunged headfirst into the deployment of military operations. She and Sun Xingchen engaged in day and night discussions, their knees nearly touching. Under the flickering candlelight, the unfolded military maps were densely marked with annotations. Once the combat orders were issued, the army surged forth like a fierce tiger, its morale soaring to a near-boiling point, ultimately driving the enemy forces into a continuous retreat. After countless bloody battles, the dawn of victory finally pierced through the smoke of war. They successfully drove out the enemy forces and reclaimed the 12 border cities. On the city walls, The military flags fluttered fiercely, cutting through the air with sharp, whistling sounds. The battle-hardened soldiers gathered around, cheering and celebrating. Their voices echoing across the sky. Jiang Ruorin gazed at the hard-won scene of peace before her, her eyes slightly reddening with tears shimmering in their depths. In the past, the people of the borderlands had been plunged into dire straits, suffering the relentless ravages of war. Now, at last, they could return to a life of tranquility, free from fear and anxiety. Meanwhile, the joyous news of victory had already been swiftly carried to the capital by messengers riding at full speed. Upon hearing the triumphant report, the emperor was overjoyed, unable to contain his delight. He immediately took up his brush and wrote an imperial decree, urgently summoning Jiang Ruorin back to the palace to report on her mission. Upon returning to the capital, Jiang Ruorin, disregarding the exhaustion accumulated from the long journey, wasted no time and went straight to the palace to request an audience with the emperor. In the court, she stood as straight as a pine tree, her demeanor cold and solemn. "Your Majesty, I have returned. General Jiang, you have truly lived up to your duty and my expectations. Having a general like you is not only my good fortune but also a blessing for our dynasty. Whatever reward you desire, just tell me, and I will not be stingy." The emperor's face was full of smiles, his eyes brimming with approval. Jiang Ruorin looked solemn, clasped his hands in a respectful salute, and said clearly, "Your Majesty, I have no other requests. Only one matter, and I humbly ask for your Majesty's approval." The emperor immediately pressed, "What matter? Speak freely." The king of the northern frontier was once accused of treason, however. "During my time at the border, I had the honor of meeting Xianxia, the son of the king of the northern frontier. He is highly skilled in martial arts, fearless and brave on the battlefield, and even more loyal to the court. It is truly difficult to imagine that his family would commit such an act of rebellion. I humbly request your Majesty to reopen the case of the king of the northern frontier and restore justice to his family." As soon as these words were spoken, it was like a massive stone thrown into a calm lake, instantly causing an uproar in the court. The ministers whispered among themselves, discussing in hushed tones, and for a moment, the court hall was filled with a clamor of voices. At that moment, a minister stepped forward, cupped his hands, and said, "Your Majesty, the case of the northern border king was decided by the late emperor, and the evidence was conclusive at the time. To hastily reopen the case now might shake the very foundation of the state. I implore your Majesty to reconsider." The elder minister spoke with earnest sincerity, his brow furrowed deeply, his face full of concern. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin slightly furrowed her delicate brows and responded with neither arrogance nor humility. "Sir, there may be more to the matter than meets the eye. Now, Xianxia is determined to clear his family's name and has also aided our army in reclaiming lost territory during the recent conflict, rendering outstanding service. If we can uncover the truth and restore the innocence of the northern border king's family, it would not only demonstrate your Majesty's fairness and benevolence but also unite the hearts of the people. How could this be said to shake the foundation of the state?" Her gaze was resolute, her tone carrying a hint of coldness. "General Jiang, this matter is of great importance. Allow me to consider it carefully." The emperor's expression turned grave as he fell into deep thought. Seeing this, Jiang Ruorin knelt down once more and earnestly pleaded, "Your Majesty, the northern frontier king once achieved remarkable military feats, guarding our borders and repelling foreign invaders. He risked his life time and again, making countless contributions." The emperor remained silent. Jiang Ruorin felt somewhat uneasy in her heart, but she persisted nonetheless. "If their family is wronged and not vindicated, who in the future would be willing to serve the court with utmost loyalty and dedication? I implore your Majesty to make a decision as soon as possible." Her words were sincere, and she kowtowed to the ground, remaining prostrate for a long time. The emperor raised his gaze, slowly sweeping his eyes over the officials in the court, and asked, "My esteemed ministers, do you have any thoughts on this matter?" "Your Majesty, General Jiang's words are not without reason. I have heard of Xianxia's deeds at the border, and indeed, he possesses exceptional qualities. If we can uncover the truth and clear the northern frontier king's name, it will also allow the people to witness your majesty's wisdom and fairness." Immediately afterward, several ministers echoed their support for reopening the case, and the court was filled with a chorus of agreement. After a long moment of contemplation, the emperor finally nodded. "Very well, I shall grant General Jiang's request. This matter is to be handed over to the chief of the Dali Temple immediately for a thorough investigation into the case of the northern frontier prince. The truth must be uncovered, and an explanation must be given to the people." In the days that followed, Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen traveled far and wide, assisting the chief of the Dali Temple in gathering evidence. By chance, Jiang Ruorin learned from an elderly servant that a former advisor to the northern frontier prince might hold crucial information about the case. After great effort, they finally located this advisor, who had been living in seclusion deep in the mountains. Shen Xingchen asked urgently, "Elder, you must know something about the northern frontier king from back then. I implore you to tell the truth to clear my family's name." The old strategist let out a long sigh and said slowly, "Back then, the northern frontier king was framed by a villain. That villain bribed the king's trusted aide, forged letters of rebellion, and presented them to the late emperor. To prove his loyalty, the northern frontier king intended to go to the capital to explain himself to the emperor, but the villain secretly obstructed him, and he ultimately died with a grievance." Jiang Ruorin pressed further, "Who was that villain? Is there any evidence?" The old strategist took out a yellowed letter from his pocket and said, "This is a letter exchanged between the trusted aide and the villain back then. I happened to come across it and have kept it hidden all this time. Now, it can finally be put to use." With this crucial evidence, the minister of the Court of Judicial Review quickly uncovered the truth, confirming that the northern frontier prince had indeed been framed by treacherous individuals. Upon learning of this, the emperor was furious and severely punished the officials who had participated in the conspiracy. He also issued a proclamation to the entire realm, clearing the northern frontier prince's name. Shen Xingchen regained his princely status, yet in the imperial court, he appeared calm and composed. He approached the emperor, knelt, and bowed his head, saying, "Your Majesty, I am deeply grateful for your grace in exonerating my family. I will forever remember this great kindness. However, having wandered since childhood, I have long grown weary of the courtly struggles and worldly luxuries. Now, all I desire is to travel the mountains and rivers with Jiang Ruorin. I humbly beg your Majesty to grant me this wish." The emperor pondered for a moment. "Very well. General Jiang has rendered outstanding service to the nation and deserves a rest." Upon learning of their departure, Li Chengjin was filled with anxiety and hurried over. "Ruo Yin, are you really leaving? Are you still unwilling to become my crown princess?" Jiang Ruorin remained calm. "I was never your crown princess in the past, and I never will be in the future. From now on, we will only be strangers." Li Chengjin watched their retreating figures, tears streaming from his eyes, returning to the palace. Li Chengjin shut himself in the Eastern Palace all day, staring blankly at the objects Jiang Ruorin had left behind. The eunuch by his side watched with deep concern and advised, "Your Highness, you must not continue to be so despondent." Li Chengjin paid no heed, only clutching tightly a jade pendant Jiang Ruorin had given him, his eyes vacant. "Ruorin, why are you so heartless? Could you not give me one more chance?" As the days passed, Li Chengjin's mental state grew increasingly worse. He often met Jiang Ruorin in his dreams, but upon waking to an empty room, the pain in his heart grew even more intense. One day, he suddenly ran out of the Eastern Palace in a frenzy and jumped into the lake. By the time he was rescued, he was already frozen stiff. It took a full half-month before he finally woke up. After waking up, Li Chengjin's eyes were vacant, his face as pale as paper, as if he had lost his soul. The personal eunuch Li Fu anxiously urged from the side, "Your Highness, please eat something. It's been days, how can your body endure this?" Li Chengjin paid no attention, merely staring fixedly out the window, his lips trembling slightly without making a sound. Li Fu had no choice but to stand by anxiously, shaking his head and sighing repeatedly. A month later, Li Chengjin completely lost his mind. talking to the orchids in the courtyard every day, yet no one could understand what he was saying. As time went on, the emperor was utterly disappointed and had no choice but to strip him of his crown prince status and appoint a new heir. Meanwhile, Jiangruorin and Xianxia, after leaving the capital, embarked on a journey to explore the mountains and rivers. Along the way, accompanied by green hills and clear waters, the two chatted and laughed together. Jiangruorin gazed at the beautiful scenery before her and couldn't help but sigh. Aiken, I never imagined that leaving the court could bring such a carefree life. Xianxia smiled as he looked at her. From now on, I will accompany you to see all the beautiful sights in this world. Jiangruorin's cheeks flushed slightly as she nodded gently. Xianxia suddenly handed a box to Jiangruorin. See if you like it. Jiangruorin carefully opened it. A warm, smooth jade pendant lay quietly on the brocade, exquisitely carved. The patterns were delicate and flowing, with a dazzling ruby embedded in the center, radiating a captivating glow under the sunlight. At the edge of the pendant, 2 names were engraved. Each stroke was filled with deep affection. Aiken, this is so beautiful. When did you prepare it? Xianxia smiled and scratched his head, a bit shyly saying, when I was in the capital, I happened to see this jade pendant and thought I must give it to you. It feels like our relationship, unique and unbreakable. Jiangruorin gently stroked the jade pendant, holding it close to her chest as if she could feel the warmth of Xianxia's heartbeat. I really like it, thank you, Chen. The two continued on their way and, before they knew it, arrived at a peaceful small town. The town is built along the water, with winding cobblestone paths flanked by quaint traditional houses, where wisps of cooking smoke rise from the rooftops. The shops along the street are filled with a dazzling array of goods. Jiangruorin was drawn to a shop selling handmade embroidery. The embroidery in the shop is vibrant in color and delicate in stitchwork, each piece vividly lifelike. She lingered for a long time in front of a handkerchief embroidered with mandarin ducks playing in the water, her eyes filled with admiration. Xianxia noticed this, quietly walked over to the shopkeeper, exchanged a few words in a low voice, then paid and bought the handkerchief. By the time Jiangruorin came back to her senses, Xianxia had already handed the handkerchief to her. If you like it, take it. Jiangruorin took the handkerchief and gently tapped Xianxia on the shoulder. How much did this handkerchief cost? To win a beauty's smile, I wouldn't hesitate to spend a fortune, let alone just a handkerchief. They settled in at an inn in the small town. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow that draped the town in a dreamy veil. Jiangruorin and Xianxia strolled along the riverbank, where the water flowed gently, reflecting the moonlight and the lights from both shores. A gentle breeze brushed by, bringing a slight chill, and Jiangruorin instinctively leaned closer to Xianxia. Ah Chen, this little town is so quiet, it feels like time has slowed down, Jiangruorin whispered softly, her voice lingering in the night sky. Xianxia naturally wrapped his arm around her shoulder. I'm so happy, Ruorin. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window onto the bed. And Jiangruorin slowly woke up, only to find that Xianxia beside her had already risen. She walked out of the room and saw Xianxia standing in the courtyard of the inn, chatting with the villagers. Elder, are there any special places worth visiting nearby? The old man stroked his beard and smiled, saying, there is indeed one. Deep in the mountains, there is a hot spring. The water there is quite miraculous, it can heal injuries and prolong life. Jiangruorin's heart stirred. Thinking that Xianxia had been busy with military affairs and likely had lingering internal injuries, a trip to the hot springs for recuperation would be perfect. So, she looked at Xianxia, her eyes filled with anticipation. Aiken, let's go take a look. All right, whatever you say. Jiangruorin asked while carefully stepping on the stones beneath her feet. Chen, do you think the hot spring is really as magical as the old folks say? Xianxia smiled and said, it must be. After several hours of trekking, they finally found the hot spring. Mist swirled around the hot spring, with steam rising like a fairyland. Jiangruorin excitedly walked to the edge of the spring, reached out to test the water temperature. It was just right. She turned to look at Xianxia. Aiken, come over and try it quickly. Xinxingchen walked to her side, and the two of them stepped into the hot spring together. The warm spring water enveloped their bodies, instantly washing away the fatigue of the day. Jiang Ruoyin leaned against the edge of the hot spring, closed her eyes, and enjoyed this rare moment of relaxation. Chen, it would be wonderful if we could live here forever. Xinxingchen looked at her, his eyes filled with affection. As long as you wish, we can stay a bit longer. After spending a few days in the small town, they embarked on a new journey once again. This time, they arrived at a vast grassland. The grassland stretches as far as the eye can see, with lush green grass, and the distant flocks of sheep drift like white clouds. Ah Chen, it's so beautiful here. Jiang Ruoyin, like a cheerful little deer, runs freely across the grassland. Tired from running, Jiang Ruoyin returns to Xinxingchen's side, lies down on the grass, and gazes at the azure sky. Chen, do you think we'll always be this happy? Yes, Ruoyin, I will spend my whole life protecting you, making sure you stay happy. Jiang Ruoyin fell silent for a moment, then mustered her courage and said, Chen, let's get married. Okay, what did you say? Xinxingchen was taken aback, wondering if he had misheard. He turned his head, his eyes fixed intently on Jiang Ruoyin, filled with disbelief and delight. Jiang Ruoyin's cheeks flushed crimson. Like clouds tinged with sunset glow on the horizon, she gently bit her lower lip and spoke again. Aiken, I said, let's get married. Xinxingchen snapped back to reality and immediately pulled Jiang Ruoyin tightly into his embrace. Ruoyin, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Jiang Ruoyin leaned against his chest, listening to his rapid and powerful heartbeat. Then shall we get married right here on the grassland? She lifted her head, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at the boundless blue sky and green land. The two of them immediately decided to hold a simple yet special wedding on the grassland. Xinxingchen rode a swift horse to the nearby town to purchase the items needed for the wedding. Jiang Ruoyin, together with the herders, decorated their wedding venue with wildflowers and colorful ribbons. When Xinxingchen returned, he held a carefully selected red wedding dress in his hands. The wedding dress was exquisitely embroidered, its red silk shimmering in the sunlight. After receiving it, Jiang Ruoyin entered the temporarily set-up tent and changed into the wedding dress. When she stepped out of the tent again, Xinxingchen's breath caught in his throat. Jiang Ruoyin wore a red wedding dress, cinched at the waist with a golden belt that accentuated her slender figure. Witnessed by the herders, they made a lifelong vow to heaven and earth. The herders cheered and offered their blessings one after another. You two are truly a match made in heaven. How can there be such a beauty in the world? If only I could be born this beautiful. What a perfect match. As night fell, a bonfire was lit on the grassland. Jiang Ruoyin and Xinxingchen sat by the bonfire, drinking mare's milk wine and listening to the herdsmen tell ancient love stories. The firelight illuminated their faces, and their eyes held only each other. Ruoyin, from today onward, you are my wife. The night grew deep, and the lively celebrations gradually quieted down as the herders returned to their tents one by one. The grassland returned to tranquility, with only the occasional crackle of the campfire breaking the silence. Xinxingchen held Jiang Ruoyin's hand tightly, his steps light yet cautious, as they slowly made their way toward the tent that had been carefully prepared for their wedding. Stepping into the tent, their eyes were met with a simple yet deeply heartfelt arrangement. Soft red silk lay smoothly across the bed, like a passionate flame, dyeing the entire tent with a rich, festive hue. Several oil lamps were arranged in a staggered pattern, their soft glow flowing gently within the tent. Jiang Ruoyin sat gracefully at the edge of the bed, her head slightly lowered, her hands unconsciously clutched at the hem of her clothes, her slender fingers fidgeting restlessly. Xinxingchen slowly sat down beside her, his movements gentle as if afraid to disturb this beautiful moment. He leaned in slightly, his slender fingers gently lifting Jiang Ruoyin's chin, his gaze so tender it seemed to drip with affection. Ruoyin, from the moment I first saw you at the border, I was certain that if I could walk through life hand in hand with you, it would be the greatest fortune bestowed upon me by heaven. Now, this fortune has truly come to pass, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life. Jiang Ruoyin looked up at him, tears shimmering in her eyes. The two lay nestled together. The next morning, golden sunlight, like scattered gold dust, filtered through the gaps in the tent and gently fell upon Jiangruorin's face. She slowly awoke, and in her drowsy state, her gaze settled on the man lying beside her. Xianxia was sleeping peacefully, his features as if meticulously carved, with elegant and profound lines. His nose was high and straight, making one involuntarily want to reach out and touch it. Jiangruorin raised her hand, her fingertips lightly brushing his nose like a feather, carrying threads of affection. At that moment, Xianxia suddenly reached out and grabbed her hand, a slight smile curling at the corner of his lips, tinged with a hint of doting affection. "Madam, you are quite restless." Jiangruorin was startled by his sudden action, and a blush instantly spread across her face. She hastily withdrew her hand, stammering, I was just seeing this." Xianxia laughed even more heartily and teased, "My lady woke up so early, it seems I wasn't diligent enough last night." Jiangruorin hadn't expected Xianxia to be so bold after marriage. His shameless words made her both shy and annoyed, and she chided, "Xianxia, what are you saying?" The tent echoed with their laughter and joy, and the sweet atmosphere grew even more intense. In the second year of their marriage, filled with nostalgia for the past and concern for the people of the frontier, they once again embarked on the journey to the borderlands. When their figures appeared at the frontier, the scenes of war, displaced and suffering people from the past were nowhere to be seen, replaced instead by a picture of peace and prosperity. As soon as the frontier people heard that General Jiang and Master Shun had arrived, they instantly erupted with excitement. Spreading the news far and wide, with hearts full of gratitude and enthusiasm, the crowd immediately prepared a banquet to welcome their return. To ensure they lived comfortably, everyone worked together to prepare a house for them in a nearby town. The house was not large, but it was filled with the warmth of a home. Xianxia personally filled the courtyard with Jiangruorin's favorite orchids. In their leisure time, the two would set up a tea table and a chessboard in the courtyard. Surrounded by the refreshing fragrance of orchids, amidst the interweaving of black and white chess pieces, one can savor the lingering aroma of tea while reminiscing about the little moments of the past. At this moment, time seems to stand still, the present is peaceful, and everything feels so perfect. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.